Right. Welcome to the February 5th, 2024 City Council Study Session. We will begin this evening with a report from Doug Byland on the Indianola Hometown Pride update regarding Wonder on Buxton. I believe it's Doug or Heidi as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
I apologize.
I
Heidi.
see.
You likely told me.
Technology is always wonderful when it works, right? Well, while we are resolving the tech issues, let me introduce myself. I know all of you, but not all of you. I'm Heidi Levine. I am a member of the Indianola Hometown Pride Committee, serving as chair of the Wonder on Buxton project. So the slides aren't super interesting yet. Yay. Okay, there we go. All right. So thank you. So I'd like to first acknowledge the other members of this committee that we've been working with over the past couple of years. So Duncan, Michael Eagle from Des Moines Metro Opera, Elodie Opstad, who is a community member and expert on all things Indianola history, Jennifer Pfeiffer Mullaney, who is a past member of Indianola Hometown Pride, and a business owner in the community, Melissa Sones, Amanda Zwanziger, and then Doug Byland serves as our ex officio liaison to the city. This will be a review for some of you, but for others, you may recall that we had specific project goals as we entered into this project a couple of years ago. One was to connect the downtown square and Simpson College in a visible and celebratory way. Second was to provide gathering area for community events and impromptu gatherings and possible overflow from square events. We wanted to create a space that would attract both visitors and residents to spend time here, to visit our businesses and to get to know our story. And finally, we wanted to celebrate and lift up community pride and identity. As a reminder, the area that this project will be taking shape in is on Buxton, literally the 2 blocks in between the edge of the square, Ashland, heading over to the edge of Simpson's campus. So a few milestones along the way, because the project has been going on for quite some time. In August of 2020, we received designation as one of Iowa Great Places. And that opened up the opportunity for us to apply for a grant from the Iowa Great Places program. And they, in their grant making program, specifically are looking for communities to create some kind of lasting program that is really going to lift up and celebrate what is special and unique about their community. And so they're specifically, again, looking for things that are not going to be temporary, but will somehow remain beyond the time, perhaps that the city has its Iowa Great Places designation. So the Indianola Hometown Pride Committee started talking right after, pretty much as soon as we got the Iowa Great Places designation, talking about what might we do? What are the things that we think are worthy of lifting up and celebrating and seeking funding for this grant? And one of the things that we turned to was reflecting on the experience that we had back in July of 2019, when we were an overnight town for RAGBRAI. And those of you who were here at that time may remember that the square was torn up and not usable as a place for RAGBRAI activities. And so we had to think, where are we going to have all of the vendors and all of the things that go along with hosting RAGBRAI? And so use that stretch of Buxton and then coming up, approaching the this football stadium on Simpson's campus. That was great. It was so vibrant and it was literally pulling people from the square to the campus and back again. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do something that would create that kind of connection between downtown and Simpson? And that was the beginning of what we initially were thinking of as a culture walk. We were already thinking about this as possibly a public arts work. In the spring through the fall of 2021, we did a survey with members of the Indianola community. We held a series of focus groups trying to find out from people what were those things that made Indianola special and unique to them that we might want to lift up through this project. In February of 22, we put out an RFP for artist proposals, and in May selected the Wonder on Buxton project. And some elements of that project were a sculpture series, sidewalk inlays, a historical listening tour, and also a series of copper wind banners that would be affixed to the light poles along that stretch. The summer of 2022, we did fundraising because in order to receive the Iowa Great Places grant, we needed to be able to demonstrate that we had matching funds coming from the community. And among our fundraising partners were McCoy's, People's Bank, and Warren County. And in November of 2022, we received the Iowa Great Places grant. We received funding from them, $73,300 toward elements of this project. So as we continued in our work, we also got feedback that there were some elements of the project that people really loved. And there were other elements of the project that people were not as in love with. And particularly what people were not as in love with were the designs that were in that initial proposal for the sculpture series. There was lots of feedback about them. And about the sculpture design itself. So in April of this past year, we did another community workshop working with our partners at Group Creative who are managing this program for us in order to gather more community input about what kinds of things people would like to see, how they might want to see the space utilized, and also what were the values and themes that really resonated with them as they thought about Indianola and thought about what was worthy of being lifted up through this project. And on the slide, you see that there were values that included creating a sense of belonging, community, tapping into the curiosity that people had, creating a space worthy of exploration that elicited a sense of happiness, simplicity, and vitality. And some of the themes that they wanted to see reflected in the work were both rest and movement, so places for both, that they wanted something that would build kind of temporary senses of community as people were walking around, that there was deliberate integration of some technology, the quote, do it for the gram, so that there would be some elements of this that would be worthy of Instagram post, pictures and postings, that it would draw people together. And again, that there would be a sense of joy included with this. So we then took that information, used it to refine the request for proposals, and put out another RFP inviting new proposals from artists. And in the fall, we saw packages from 3 different artists. And the artist that we selected is Joe Tuggle-Lacina. Joe is from Iowa. He lives in Grinnell. He's a University of Iowa graduate, and in 2022-23 was the Iowa Artist Fellow. And the medium in which Joe works is concrete, and he does concrete sculpture. And the smaller picture on the left shows you a little peek at the process he uses, that he builds frames for whatever the sculpture piece is going to be, and then layers concrete on that. And the larger picture you see is an example of one of his projects in another town. So for this project, Joe proposed 6 sculptures. Each would be 7 feet tall, by 5 by 5. And the concepts that would be reflected in these sculptures are the same concepts that had been part of the original Wonder on Buxton proposal. So balloons, opera, the college, Warren County and the fair are setting Buxton Park. And then an additional piece that Joe put in was one that he calls Picture Yourself Here, which is literally an open frame, the date of Indianola's founding that we would cite very intentionally so that, again, it is Instagram worthy and so that we can get people taking their picture and looking out on great things. Here are 2 other samples of the works that Joe presented to us. One, group of balloons. I'm trying to think of a word that's not concrete to describe something that is not terribly abstract. And I apologize that concrete's the word that comes to head. Just bad pun given his medium. But that's an example, as is the frame, of something that, it's pretty literal in what it is. The second is a deconstructed W with vines running through it that represents Warren County and Buxton Park. So some of the work that he's done or that he's proposed is more abstract in nature. And the feedback that we had for him was that we really liked those abstract pieces. And in a second, I will talk more about where we're at in the process. But here's also a sample of what the sidewalk inlays would look like. There would be 36 of these. Each would be 2 feet. They're all the same. So all of the sidewalk inlays have the balloon image and then year of our founding. Upcoming steps. So we are now in the midst of working with Joe on refining his concepts. 3 of the concepts that he provided for us, we were good with as they were. 3 of them, we've asked him to go back, either to tweak them or to give us completely different proposals. We just met with him, I believe it was a week ago, to go over those, give him more feedback. And we're continuing to narrow those down so that we can approve the final sculptures. Sorry. We are ready to work on fabrication quotes and installation plans for our light pole wind banners. Melody has been working on creating the stories that will go with the storytelling tour part of this, and there will be QR codes that we will be mounting in different places along this tour that will take people to a site where they can learn more, both listening to stories that are read, but also just visiting the information on the website. Our goal is to be able to unveil at least 1 or 2 of these sculptures by July 27th, which just so happens to be the date of the Celebrate Warren County Parade. So it's in the midst of the Balloon Classic, the fair. It seemed like the perfect target date to unveil this project. We have to complete all of the sculptures and sidewalk inlays by the end of December of this calendar year. Those are 2 elements of the project that are being funded, at least in part, by Iowa Great Places, and that is our deadline for expending the grant funds. Warren County has also contributed significantly to this project. We've got a little bit more time, another year, in order to meet the deadline for the Warren County funding. And then private donations, again, continue to be flexible. Those were the slides that I have, and I would be delighted to answer any questions. Oh, one other thing I want to share is that 3 weeks ago, Doug gave this presentation to the Public Art Commission 2 or 3 weeks ago. So to get their input and their feedback, intentionally did that before we were going to meet with Joe in order to give him feedback about his new designs. And we have enthusiastic support from the Public Art Commission about how this project is taking shape. Now that was all that I had to say. Would still be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I think it really looks really nice. You said Graham-worthy, I'm so non-social media, I was thinking of grandma, not Mr. Graham.
That too.
But it really does look nice.
How many sculptures were they be? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
How many sculptures, the bigger one?
6.
6, and then, do you know the locations where they're going?
We actually have a meeting on Wednesday afternoon with Joe, with our project manager from Group Creative, with Charlie and Doug, to walk that stretch and to start looking, all right, where exactly are we going to put these elements?
Thank you. Anyone else have anything for
I
Heidi?
did just want to add that Keep Indianola Beautiful is also a funding source.
Thank you, thank you.
How many of the light pole features are we gonna have?
To get back to you on that one. Not 100% sure of how many, I don't remember either.
Do you know how, you're talking how many streetlights there are?
No, how many?
No, how many of the
We'll have to get back to you.
banners, right?
I can tell you how many streetlights there probably are.
Oh, it's just
I
the one
could,
on the street.
right, I could get to it, but it would take me a little bit of time.
So they actually gonna rotate with the wind?
Oh, they're so beautiful. Yeah, they're kind of spiraled
Great.
now. Whatever that is.
Well, thank you to your committee for all your hard work and
Welcome.
city staff.
Been fun.
We're excited to see this happen.
Excited to be at this point of seeing it coming to fruition. So thank you all for your time and your support.
Thank you, Heidi. We will move on to Charlie with the community development annual report for 2023.
Yeah, good evening. Council's aware, we've done this in the past and it's been a very smaller scale and not nearly as nice as we put together this year. By code, we're required to do it with both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Downtown Square Commission to give a report on their transactions essentially throughout the year. We always kind of go a little bit above and beyond, just to kind of explain what our entire department has done throughout the year. So that's what this presentation will include. First of all, I just want to acknowledge our small but very mighty staff that we have within community development on the screen here above. We couldn't do any one thing without all of these guys usually working together and everything we do. So I truly do appreciate all that they bring to our department and to the city. So first of all, getting into building permits, though the overall building permits have decreased by 26% since its peak in 2020, the overall value of new construction, remodels, alterations, and additions has increased by 3/4. So again, our total number of permits are going down. They've been kind of going down for the last couple of years, but you'll see here in a little bit with some graphs that we have, the valuation continues to go up, and that's really what we are looking at. And that's what I believe the council is really looking at too, because that does help our taxable value. In addition to new developments that we have, or excuse me, we have several new developments that we have anticipated to increase permitting valuation in the upcoming years. Currently we have, I think we have shown up here 81 developable lots for single family dwellings located. We've had 4 that were just pulled here last month. So that number's down to 77 right now. And then we had 31 signed permit applications that were approved in 2023, which shows a reinvestment by existing businesses plus new businesses that are coming to town. And again, the graphic on the screen here will show the number of building permits broken out by type since 2020. The quantity of permits being submitted has decreased. However, looking at the valuation continues to trickle upwards. Looking at code enforcement, in 2023, we saw 318 code enforcement cases that were opened. Approximately 330 violations were observed, with few of those cases having multiple violations that were needing to be addressed. This number is similar to the number of cases opened for the previous year. And approximately 70 of these cases were abated by the city, a lot of that being grass mowing that the city does. We go in there and take care of that when that's not getting done, and then you see those bills as they come through the claims. Total number of complaints submitted this year neared 450. Many complaints that were not taken in were either forwarded on to other departments as they did not fall within Community Development Department's authority, There was currently an active open case on them, or 3, there was no violation found on the property when we investigated. A significant number of the invalid cases that were submitted this year in comparison to last year. Contextually, one individual did submit 255 code complaints in retaliation of an issue that that individual had on their property. So that just gives context to why that number might be just a little bit higher this year than it had been in the past. The most common complaints submitted in 2023 related to tall grass and weeds. No surprise there. That's pretty typical with dangerous trees and junk and debris and refuse following. The dangerous trees have continued to go up just with the emerald ash borer that is within the city. We're starting to see more and more of those complaints come in. Just some here on the screen are some pictures of some violations that we observed. This one right here, I don't know if you can see that first picture. There's a lot of brush there, but there's also a car underneath that brush. So that was an issue that we dealt with. Continuing through here, this one just shows some junk in a driveway. Next one here shows just some brush that we dealt with on a property. These tend to be pretty common. A lot of these with junk in the curb, you'll see that from time to time, but they're usually related to an eviction that took place on the property where the landlord is putting the junk out on the curb for the previous tenant to claim. And a lot of times that sits there and goes unclaimed. So we have to step in and make sure that gets taken care of. Looking at rental housing, as the council's aware, we started a rental housing inspection process here a couple of years ago. This year we did focus on Ward 1 and Ward 3. And those units were required to be registered and certified under the new program. We had a total of 828 rental units that were certified, spanning over 199 unique properties. And we had a total, and this is one that I think we did a really good job of getting everybody registered, but in all of those, we only had to issue 2 infractions for people who were not registering their property. So initially, I think we thought that number would be a lot higher, and we were very pleased that it's as low as it has been. Just some pictures of some issues that we're seeing when we're out inspecting these rental properties. Just kind of go through these here really quick. Just some issues here with some outlets. This next one's not pretty at all, but this is something that we did witness on a property. And just again, some minor electrical issues with the panel being off the breaker box. And then on this one, just some actual flooring being missing. This isn't a wall, this isn't a ceiling, this is part of a floor inside a rental unit. Looking at some of the analytics that we've had on our website, just to kind of show who's visiting our website, what we're seeing on that. So we have gathered nearly 14,000 views since tracking it in March of 2023. So that's not a full year's worth of data. Our top visited pages this year included our main page, our current development projects page. If anybody's taken a look on that, that's a mapping tool that Emily did a really good job of putting together. And that has become one of our most popular features of our website, just speaking for planning and development. Planning and Zoning Commission page, or city zoning map, and then the rental housing. We are shifting a lot of people to our renting housing page when they're looking to get registered, and that's really helping them. We had 5,000 distinct visitors to our page, 911 being returning users. Many visitors were located within the city of Indianola or the Des Moines metro area, but other users were located in other Midwest cities. This year, we added new web pages to increase transparency and accessibility of information to the public. That included creating a long-range planning library where comprehensive plans are uploaded. So that would include our comprehensive plan, our 6th Street plan, our square master plan, and all of that. Just getting those out on the website for people to access. And then the website also does host a new FAQ building permit inspections portal where property owners and builders can learn and understand permitting requirements for construction projects. So this just shows here kind of some of the current projects that we have going on. We put that information out on our website. For example, here you can see we're in the process of doing our housing study and needs assessment and just getting as much information out to the public as we can through our website. This shows just kind of the new pages that we built within our building permits and inspections. These are really a lot of FAQ flyers that people can get, some accessory building information, fences and stuff like that. Some of the most common questions that we get within our office. We do a lot of stuff with GIS within our department. And we use a lot of help through Schneider Corporation. We are under contract with at a city level to provide a lot of those services as well. But this year we did launch our new interactive web-based application that allows the public to track development proposals in real time. Since launch, the application has received almost 10,000 views and averages 26 views per day. So we're seeing a lot of activity on that particular piece of information. Our department also celebrated Worldwide GIS Day on November 15th, and we did an educational online activity that was available to the public. So this here just shows kind of what our interactive current development map looks like there. This is the Champion Express car wash that's being built on the north side of town. So you can kind of do some interactive stuff with the map. If you click on the parcel, you can see on the right-hand side there that it just provides a little bit of information that we have showing what that development project is. And then this was our kind of unique activity that we did for GIS Day on November 15th. We asked people who visited this to point out where their favorite place in Indianola was. And on this map, you can kind of see where those dots were placed or where people said that their favorite place in town was. Our comprehensive plan. So our comprehensive plan was adopted in May of 2020, and we've worked really hard to work through a lot of the implementation strategies within that plan. This year, we did reinstate the downtown facade and interior improvement grant program. Council's aware we did award 6 grants on that process, and that was an implementation strategy within the comprehensive plan. We also did apply for downtown revitalization fund for a potential 1 million investment into the downtown square. That does say if awarded, we would notified that we did not get awarded in this round. However, they are opening a special round for those that weren't awarded to fix some deficiencies within our application. So we have another application that is due for that here in a couple months that we do plan on submitting for. And then a piece of our comprehensive plan was to hire a communications and marketing professional. That wasn't something our department was necessarily directly involved in, but we did mark off that we obviously did that with Aaron this year. And just kind of where we're at through those implementation strategies. So our implementation strategies were split into 5 buckets: economic development, housing and neighborhoods, transportation, community services, and environmental and sustainability. So we have started for the most part on about half of those strategies. So you can see there, the one that we've been kind of slow on is the environmental and sustainability. We are actually going to be working with the sustainability committee to get caught up on that one a little bit. We've been in communication with them on that, but again, you can see here in the first 3 to 4 years of our comprehensive plan, we've gotten started on at least half of those implementation strategies. So some of them have been completed, some of them are still in the works. Our Planning and Zoning Commission, they did review a total of 43 cases this year. And some of the bigger projects that they recommended to the council were the 6th Street sub area and an adopted new sign code. Board of Adjustment, they did have a total of 15 cases that were reviewed this year, and they met a total of 8 times. They typically have monthly meetings, but they only meet as needed, so 8 times this year. And then the Downtown Square Commission, they heard 21 applications and special items, including 9 special event applications and 8 sidewalk use agreements. The Downtown Square Commission was instrumental in recommending to the council the Downtown Square design guidelines. They were instrumental in reinstating the downtown facade and interior improvement program. We've worked with them on the application for the CDBG funds for the next round of facade stuff. And we did note through the Downtown Square Commission that I think everybody will be excited about this, that the Downtown Square reconstruction project is nearing completion, and we're hoping that it's done midsummer of next year. So what's to come in 2024 for community development? We're going to be finishing up our housing needs study and assessment. We're going to be wrapping up our gateway study. Those 2 processes have already started. We're working through some changes to our subdivision code, still working through some things internally on that, but we hope to get that forward to Planning and Zoning Commission and the council here soon. The next 3 items we have stars by because that's been part of an overall budget discussion that we've had with the council, but hoping that we can get started on a pedestrian and bicycle plan, the Main Street Iowa program, and then the CDBG grant process. And then again, lastly, completion of the downtown square reconstructor project in the alleyways this year, and that's just a big milestone for us. So with that, happy to answer any questions on our report. And appreciate your time.
Charlie, when do you think the applications are gonna be due for businesses for the next round of the DIVE program?
So we've started the process on the next round already.
Yes.
And have those interested in there. So that grant process is gonna take about 2 years to get through, once approved, if approved. So I think if we kind of plan on, if we want to do this in future years, it's gonna be about a every 2-year thing.
Any other questions for Charlie? Thank you, Charlie, you and your team. Lots of information. Moving on to item number 3, discussion and direction regarding an ordinance pertaining to a tractor semi route in the city of Indianola.
You want me to take this one too? Okay. I think, has council seen the emails that we got? And I think they were contacted by a few people too. So, North 9th Street between Hillcrest and Iowa, we've had a lot of complaints. I know previous council members before, mainly John Parker, also had a lot of complaints on this one. And we have been kind of working with some of the businesses in the area to have them remind their delivery drivers and users to not use this section of 9th Street just due to the residential nature. I think from a staff standpoint, we've done a lot of stuff. We've done pretty much everything we can to try to deteriorate truck traffic. When 14th Street was closed, when Hillcrest Street was closed, as part of those reconstruction projects, we had special signage put up to encourage trucks not to use those routes during the construction projects. And again, it just seems like those are still falling on deaf ears for the most part. So I think we want to just have a discussion with council and maybe some direction from council on, what do we do moving forward? We do have some ability within our current code to designate truck routes that would help in an effort to deteriorate traffic from using this corridor and actually give PD an enforcement mechanism to write tickets if trucks are using these routes. Of course, that's with anything with PD, we have to catch them in the act of doing that. Sometimes that's easier said than done, but just wanted to get some direction, I think, from council, maybe have a discussion on it to see what you think our next steps should be.
Were we talking semis or cube trucks?
Yeah.
Semis?
Specific. Being in the neighborhood, I think they're coming from a specific building, business and.
Were they like coming down Hillcrest and then going down 9th and then going to Iowa and like?
Yeah.
So they're on a specific route.
Yeah,
and they're just.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I can just tell you they're going down 9th. I don't know where they're going when they get off of 9th, but.
From Iowa to Hillcrest.
One way or the other,
Yeah.
or straight, I guess, so there's 3 ways out of there, but.
They're either coming off of Iowa and going down 9th, or they're coming from the direction of Hillcrest and leaving on Iowa.
And when we move into that next phase of Hillcrest, where will that specifically be closed down? Sorry, AP, I'm sorry, I should have maybe asked this ahead of time, but I think that's gonna play into this too a little bit, because we did see a lot of traffic rerouting in the neighborhood, and maybe they just got used to that route and liked it. I don't know.
So even during construction stage, I think Charlie may have covered this, we had signs posted,
You did, absolutely, and
but nothing is enforceable. That is not enforceable. We don't have legal mechanism right now to enforce that.
So regarding the Hillcrest project, what's the duration next year? Is that gonna be phased in, or is that just gonna be a full closure from 7th
it
down
won't
to
be.
14th?
It will be a phased closure. I foresee there'll be 2 phases. Will be phased, first one starts from 7th, 9th, I think, and then 9th to 14th, but that phasing has not yet been determined. That's where I foresee.
all right, thank you.
Those signs are still on 9th that say no trucks. They just choose to
Yeah.
ignore it.
Yeah, we didn't take it down just because we are going to do that again next year, so.
Right.
How labor intensive is that for you, Charlie, if you guys were to identify a truck route? I mean, just cost,
I don't know how much experience AP has on designating truck routes before and the costs involved with signage and everything like that. If you have any high level idea what that would be. I think from a time standpoint and getting the ordinances put together, I don't think it would take much time. to go through that, but I think the labor intensive portions are just gonna be getting the signage up and having our streets department put that up, and even more so than on PD on enforcing.
Yes, and I think that's exactly, it's more, so for us, signs are roughly around $200 to $300, including post, one sign. But it's more about enforcement when that comes, and generally what I've seen is basically it's based on complaint driven. Where we have seen residential where there's more truck, for instance, Clinton, we have received, I know historically we have received complaints on Clinton where the cement Norwalk concrete plant is located. We have received complaint on 9th Street. These are the two main locations where I can think of currently. But those are the two main locations where I can think of.
Are we wanting them to go over to down 14th and then down 15th? Is that how? I guess, what's the path we want to direct these trucks to?
So, so again, this is if they are, most of the industrial zone is located on the north end of 9th Street. So if they can lead towards Hillcrest and then go to 9th is what we want, if they're coming southbound from Hillcrest, that's the path we want to, but there may be some, mostly on the north end of 9th is where we want them to lead to, which can be led from 65 Hillcrest or from 14th Street Hillcrest and then lead to 9th Street.
So,
But I think ultimately what we'd be looking at, probably, we haven't really talked about this much internally, would be that Hillcrest would be the truck route and then 14th up to Hillcrest and 9th up to Hillcrest, and just trying to funnel everybody onto Hillcrest, or truck traffic, I should say, onto Hillcrest.
so like if the guy's coming from Knoxville, though, we want him to go down 15th and then 14th and then Hillcrest? Or you want him to go 65, or I'm sorry, did 92 to 65 to Hillcrest?
They can take either route. So where if the council decides to choose a truck route, the only restriction that you'll have is 9th Street, for instance. They can take 65 or 14th, for instance. They can even take 7th for that matter, but it's up to, if we have a restriction, the restriction will be on 9th Street, but they can take other routes. Now, if it spills onto 7th, that may be a concern again. That's again where we may have to do that truck route, but the most reasonable routes is, like you said, 65 and 14th is the most reasonable route, but the truck drivers can choose to take any other route that is not a truck route, dedicated route.
Just from living in the neighborhood, and I don't notice as much because I'm a little bit off, but have we talked to the specific business where we're pretty confident where they're coming out of, and that hasn't resulted in any change?
Nope, we talked to the business. That business owner said that they would remind all of their deliveries to try to go up there, but even acknowledge there's only so much that business owner could do about it as well, so.
If I may add, we have talked during construction too. It's not their drivers, it's the third party drivers, pretty much like Norwalk Concrete. It's not their drivers directly, it's the third party that don't know that.
I have a question to AP's point. Mentioned they could take any other street, like 7th Street. Why would we want to allow that? Wouldn't we then just be creating another problem? I have a feeling that then 7th Street residents would start complaining to allow that.
Creating a truck route would, I think, eliminate that, right?
Yeah, so, I think it will eliminate on 9th, but will that spill on to 7th? 7th is more complex. The right turns, left turns, the networking that you have to go through to reach the destination, it's much more complex than 9th. So I think they will ultimately prefer 65 or 14th. But if that's a complaint, I've seen it spill through onto other streets, which may have to be addressed at that point of time.
I think, to be clear though, that we're not talking about making 7th a designated truck route. It's just that it may spill over when you shut down 9th.
Okay,
That's what our fear is.
gotcha.
I think we need to take into consideration the fact that we're putting an industrial park out at 143rd and Hillcrest. Is that 143rd and Hillcrest? I don't know refresh my memory, Charlie, but was that 17th ever decided? Was that ever gonna go through there?
The plan shows that it would go through there at some point, yeah. We
I'm
don't have a
thinking,
program though.
what's that?
We don't have it programmed in a CIP right now, though.
I understand that, but the point I'm gonna make here is that if and when that industrial park develops, there's gonna be, should be a lot more truck traffic in that area. And I think we're gonna wanna make sure that we program that up 15th and 14th. In fact, honestly and truly, hopefully the 17th we get done then sometime there soon thereafter, so that they could avoid 14th and even not even have to think about 9th Street. But I think we got to look a little bit in the future on this and see where we are with this, because if that industrial park develops fairly quickly, I don't know if it is or not, you may know more about that than I do, but I think we got to kind of keep that into consideration.
I can speak personally for the condition of 14th Street. It's getting
Not
pretty
very good.
rough.
Yeah.
I drive it every day, multiple times a day. And especially in the winter months, I mean, it was a sheet of ice throughout that whole entire 2 weeks after that storm, so.
It's all a road sign.
I mean, if we do a truck route and it includes 14th, I mean, we're really gonna have to look at doing some repairs out there, because there's some spots even now where you hit it and it's a big with your car just going over it at a.
And that may be
Slow speed.
why they're choosing not to go down 14th and they're coming down 9th. I mean, it could
Yeah,
be,
it could be.
it's the same semi consistently. And again, it's not the company, not that business here in town, the third party manufacturer. Good, very valid point.
I think doing a truck route though is gonna be pretty much the only solution to solving the issue on 9.
Right, so is that the direction we would like staff to look into, is looking at truck route? Melissa? Oh, sorry.
So I just want to clarify. So we're talking truck route, we're just talking travel through the main thoroughfares. I keep them on the state highways.
Yeah.
Except for when you get off on Hillcrest.
Yeah, so, and I'm just looking at the code section really quick. It's essentially you establish those routes and the only time they can go on, or excuse me, only time they can go off those routes if they're making a direct delivery or something like that. So, you know, if we don't show the square as a truck route, for example, but those semis are delivering something to the square, that's not legal. So we'll go through that. So what we'll do, and again, full disclosure, I don't think we're too completely in tune on this code section, what exactly we need to do. We haven't done the research yet. We really just wanted to get direction from council. We'll get into that pretty deep here and start looking through that stuff and report back to you once we're ready for that.
That sounds good. I think that's the consensus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 is discussion regarding an upcoming agenda item from within our regular February 5th, 2024 city council meeting at 7 p.m. Any discussion we'd like to have right now? All right, seeing none, we.
All the things I'd like to bring up, good.
Oh, yeah, well, sorry, I thought you.
No, that's okay.
You just couldn't believe you looked at me, Steve, and I thought,
Yeah.
wait, are we gonna go?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
No. I think I would like, and I guess maybe this is a little bit of council discussion here, but I think we need a policy on our elected officials or appointed officials serving on committees. I think that, have anything currently, if I'm understanding correctly on that, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So I think to avoid any conflicts or any, issues that may come up down the road for transparency issues, I think that's something we probably need to do. I would open that to discussion a little bit, I guess.
I guess, what are your concerns?
Well, I think that if we've got folks that are elected office and they're sitting in some of our committees or boards and commissions, I think that's a concern when it comes time to bring those items in front of the body. And I think it's an issue too for us to be having somebody vote on something that they've either had a discussion on, have be a part of, or dealing with a contract. And I think we need to make a policy on that.
You're talking like the ones that aren't, so like, not like this Facilla or the
Not like a what?
South, the landfill board.
No, he's
no.
talking specifically Parks and Rec, Hometown Pride.
Okay, that's what
You.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah, P and Z.
Again, don't mind me. Been a long day.
That's okay. The reason I'm bringing that up, I think it's easy sometimes to get lost in the minutia here, and sometimes if you look at what the league is doing, the Iowa League of Cities, pretty clear in their training that if you've got some kind of conflict, you need to recuse yourself from either the discussion, both the discussion and the any kind of voting on any of those kinds of issues. If we have people that are going to be elected and serve on some of our boards and commissions, I think we probably need to make sure we have a policy that clears that up.
Your thoughts? I see some heads.
I don't know, Ben's sounds like he has something to say.
Well, I think there's really 4 parts to this as well. In my last community, we had a 3-part ordinance. I think some of those might already be covered in Iowa law, and I'm just not as familiar with it as I should be. But typically, you'll see an ordinance that would have one, if an employee wanted to run for council, they could do that. But if they got on council, they'd have to give up their employment. If a council member wanted to apply for an employment position, they'd have to give up their council seat before applying, not before being considered, but before applying, so they didn't have undue influence on the hiring process. If a council member wants to seek higher office or office of a different kind, if they win that election and they're sworn in, that they would have to give up their council seat in order to be in higher office. And then the 4th one, which wasn't one part of ours, but is what you're talking about here, which is subcommittees, where the council's input on a subcommittee could be influential in the direction of that subcommittee, and then you're voting on something that twice. Anytime where, for example, you couldn't have a planning commissioner who's also a council member, because if they voted on something once, they couldn't vote it on a second time without jeopardizing the due process rights of the applicant. And so that's why you would have that 4th part. Some of those might be already covered in Iowa law, but those are something you may want to consider if you did consider putting a policy.
But the specific example that Steve's talking about, I believe, is me being on Hometown Pride, which is a committee that doesn't make policy. And
I'm not talking just about you, Melissa. I'm talking about, there's other situations that may evolve here in the future as well.
yes,
I think that
it's one example that's been kind of circulating recently.
and I think we just need to have a clear, nothing against what you're doing. Please don't take it that way. I just think it's something that we need to have a clear understanding from what the council thinks we ought to be doing with this, and so we have no conflict.
I think the more relevant part of that, yes, there was the contract with Hometown Pride, and that's kind of few and far between, and not very often that Hometown Pride and the council. I think a more relevant one is actually when you were on planning commission, and we're going to consider an issue on planning commission that would come to the council as you're sworn into your council seat, and then that would have precluded you from voting on the council or the planning commission. So these issues do arise often.
Be a sustainability committee, it could be, it could be on the downtown square commission, it could be anything that we.
I guess why we're talking about that too. And listen, I appreciate that you sat on 2 committees at once, because it's a lot of additional work, Hometown Pride and P and Z. I mean, is that something that we want to also look at, that maybe we shouldn't have people crossing into different committees while they're 2 completely different things, and look at different things, but.
Typically what you'll see is councils have a liaison role. So you're not really on that committee, but you will maybe attend and participate, just kind of, I oftentimes Deb comes here from IMU in the audience, because she's probably just keeping tabs on what we're doing and bringing that back to IMU. And that's a typical liaison type role where you're not actively involved, but it has to be the person to keep communications going. And that's wholly appropriate. As long as, you're keeping that fine line for.
And I have no issue with that. I mean, if they want some, anybody wants to do liaison or something else or attend those meetings, that's fine too. I don't have a problem with that. I just,
I think you make a good point too, though, on not being on more than one.
And I think if we're just looking at like the policy, it's just, and I'm not saying that's elected official, it's a, regular person. Maybe we want to look at that too of, do we want to, make that impression that you can sit on multiples and have multiple different controls? Again, two completely different things. But I think Steve, we go around the table, and if this is what council wants to direct staff to look at, we can direct them. Otherwise, I think it's kind of, we'll move on, right?
right.
Okay, so what you're asking is for staff to look at a policy in regards to elected officials serving officially as voting members on committees. Clear? Make sure I'm making it clear.
Yeah, I'll let staff figure out what they're gonna do on that, but they kind of have some, from our conversation here, I think you have some direction.
If you.
Christina? That's yes. Steve?
We can look at it. I think we should look at what Steph said too.
I do agree.
I think it's valid, actually.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your statement.
So looking at the subcommittees and sitting on more than one subcommittee at a time.
Internal, so two subcommittees, one person that's not elected and.
Right.
Right.
The current policy is kind of vague on that. It says that council would consider if they're already serving on one.
Yeah.
Find like you're stating.
Yeah,
now.
could we include that as part of something to include? Is everybody okay with that?
Okay. And one other thing.
Okay.
Okay. I talked with Ben, I think, and a few other folks, but again, it's just a question and a thought. Our study session, sometimes we have, tonight was unusual, but generally we're right up to the hour, and we don't always have time to kind of fully discuss some things. We don't generally have time to bring in folks that maybe would be the school board, IMU, or both, or the county supervisors. I really would like us as a council to start having those conversations on a regular basis with those elected bodies and those boards and commissions. I think that if we could either, number one, have a study session the third or fourth, or the fourth or fifth Mondays, if we have those in a month, especially the fourth Mondays, that maybe would last, and we could have folks come in, we could do those kinds of things and open those lines of communication. I think that's one of the things due to COVID that we've had some issues with folks building silos, and we haven't really had a chance to break those down because we've been so involved with a number of things and everything else. And I think if we could meet on a regular basis, that's what a lot of things came out of those a long time ago, the joint fuel facility, sharing of services, a lot of things came about. That's where we got our insurance pool started. There were a lot of things that came from those conversations that we would have with those boards and commissions that we would meet with on a regular basis. And I would like us to think about, we want to still do these hourly meetings beforehand, that's fine for just updates and things like that. But if we want to have maybe one a month where we could invite somebody in, and our legislators too.
So you're proposing, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. You're proposing us doing another, like a third additional study session on adding another night.
If that's what everybody wants to do, if we want to pile it all into one, but one night solely divided to a study session, that's your call. But if you want to do it differently, that's okay too. I just think we don't have enough in an hour's time generally to meet with folks and do the things we need to do.
I think that maybe we could look at some of these reports such as Hometown Pride and Community Development. We could probably bring those into just the annual reports. We could bring those into our regular meeting. Shore up maybe some time in our, I think we're going into spring. I'll tell you, it's gonna be really hard for me to commit another night here. And I know for our staff, we want to be cognizant that they have to be here too.
I don't disagree with that.
So, but I know we want to get the work done. Maybe it comes into the topics that we're presenting in study session and.
The only problem we have though, Mayor, is that we have an hour, so to meet with the school board or county supervisors.
Well, that's pending. We can get them to come too. It's.
Well, I think you can.
battled Some of
I-
those, but
Listen, and again, I don't like living in the past, but I think a lot of good things came when we met at least semi-annually with the IMU board. And we used to do the fourth Monday every month. That was our study session. And
on top of every other meeting.
Nope. We just had fourth Monday every month and that was a study session. And if you wanted to bring people in and do these and then have those other folks come in later, that was fine too, but we met with the school board, we met with county supervisors. One time we met with county supervisors and school board. That's when the joint fuel facility came up from that. I think the better and more we meet with IMU to try to work these out and bring things together, I think that's better as well. We met with Norwalk and Carlisle City Councils one time. That's when we started the insurance pool that we still have currently. Ours only now, but it used to include those folks too. So I think there's,
We only have a few minutes and I want to be able to take a minute break so I can run to the restroom before we start.
I told Steve I'm open to it. I think something needs to change, but I have zero intelligent ideas to add to it. So I'm open to the discussion. I just don't know what that looks like. Do something.
Is it something that we could do special study sessions, you know, if
Once a month, maybe it's
we wanna
dedicated.
meet, or if we need to meet with the school board, or if we need to meet with the county? We schedule a special study session?
I don't have any problem with anything, but what's that?
What if we just started like like maybe like the second Monday of the month, we started at 5:30 versus 6, that would give us that maybe that buffer we need to meet with some of those individuals. That way we're not, like Stephanie said, having staff be here on an additional night of the week.
Cause that's my main concern. I mean, we can make it work. I just know going into more high school sports here, we've got track season starting, we're seeing a lot of Mondays and not that I don't wanna be here. I think we all wanna be here as much as possible together, but I would be good with 5:30 start times on them, but I know that last year when we kind of reevaluated, 5:30 didn't work for everybody. So
It'd be hard for me to be here. I get off at
let's
5:30.
maybe all collectively maybe think about this. And we can email Steve, cause we can give you our ideas and maybe you can piece something together. I'm gonna pass this one off to him.
I didn't make a suggestion that maybe if you do end up going down this course, we could do it as a special meeting. But we target the the fifth
Mondays.
Monday, which there's only 4. So it's every 3 months, there's a fifth Monday.
And maybe
as a target.
maybe for scheduling, that will be easier. And I wanna say it's difficult to get everybody here. It's not because of past things, it's everybody's schedules. Trying to coordinate the majority of boards, it gets very difficult. But I'm open to maybe putting some ideas together.
Yeah, I like this Monday.
All right.
How about we send our ideas to Ben? How about that?
Well, I mean, I think the majority of us think that's great.
Yeah, I'll.
We can do it. Trying to save you some emails there.
Get them to me. I'll collate everything. We'll go from there.
All right. Well, I'm gonna ask you to take a break real quick.
Okay.
I know, then we're gonna start late, but I'll be right back. NOLA Council meeting for February 5th, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Jones. President Ray.
Here.
Selby.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Beach.
Here.
Richardson.
Present.
Mayor Erickson.
Present. Moving on to item 4, public comment. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak on an item that is currently not on the agenda this evening. For instance, if you're here for a public hearing, that will be the time to speak on that public hearing. But anybody else, you can come forward and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none. Moving on to item 5, are there any items that need to be pulled from the agenda, from the consent agenda?
5G.
5G.
Please.
Okay. Anything else?
That last one, I'm sorry, Melissa.
Item I.
I would move consent agenda with the items, 2 items removed.
Is there a second to approve all the items with the exception of G and I?
Second.
Ben, would you like to give us a quick rundown on these?
Sure. Item D is setting a public hearing, 7 p.m. on March 4th for the West Clinton culvert improvements. We also have applications for a new liquor license for Wesley Retirement Services, as well as a renewal liquor license for Den Garden Restaurant. We have a resolution waiving the right to review land division within our 2-mile boundary. G was removed. H is a resolution authorizing a field ride-along agreement with Mercy College with our fire department so that they can do some educational training there. We've removed I as well. Resolution ending the engineering contract with Snyder and Associates for South Cape Street. This is for all the redesign work that they did and all the assessment work that they did under the new design. And consideration and approval of urban revitalization designations as well as any salary changes.
Any questions for Ben on any of those items? Seeing none. Jackie?
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
Selby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Great, motions pass 6-0. Circling back, I will need a first and second motion on the resolution authorizing amendment number 2, the professional services agreement between the city of Indianola and Digitech LLC.
So moved.
Second.
And Steve, you hold this item, correct? Christina, I'm sorry. Christina?
So this is the company that took over our current EMS billing.
Correct, they merged.
Okay.
It's, I
And-
mean, it's the 2 companies. It was R1 Intermedics. Now Digitech. They're using their name, so the companies have merged.
Okay. So previously, I kind of brought to you some concerns I had with how billing was done with another billing agency.
Mhm.
This is that agency.
With Digitech,
And so I just wanted to check to see if there's a way that we're gonna be able to ensure that they are properly billing
yes,
for all services to insurance, no matter what. Okay,
and I think we still have the same account manager
okay,
from R1. They just merged and now they work for a different name, under a different name, which is Digitech.
okay. That was my biggest concern. So. That's all I needed.
All right, any other questions on that? Okay, Jackie?
Councilmember Jones. Ray.
Aye.
Selby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Moving on, I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a contract, authorizing a contract with Water's Edge Aquatic Design for the Aquatic Center feasibility study. You and Melissa.
I pulled this out just to have a conversation about it. You know, it's a survey to kind of find out more about the condition of the pool and need of where we are, future growth, have you, for the interest of the public and why we're paying for this now. We may not be updating the pool for a while. I wanted to have a conversation.
Yep. So Mayor and Council, this study is really just first part has two main parts. Evaluate the current facility on the operations of it, the maintenance of it, and then the life expectancy of all of the parts of it. So are we doing the right maintenance? We know we're gonna paint the pool. We know we need to replace pumps. We know those kind of things are going on, but is there something hidden that we're not quite prepared for in our short-term operation of the facility? And then the next part of that would be to collect information from community as to what they're looking for of aquatic. So does everybody like the features that we have there? They're looking for more things. Do they want lazy rivers? Do they want shallow water? Do they want deep water? Do they want more diving? So many options of things that we offer as a community. As in the meantime, knowing we kind of think that ours is nearing the end of its life cycle. So let's start that discussion now as to what the community is looking for. This in no means will be, okay, and at the end of this year, we'll have a brand new aquatic center concept out there. That's not what we're looking for. It's more to find out what people are looking for. So then when we do determine when this aquatic center, or is if we need to expand it or grow it or build a new one, or whichever the options are, come from this on what our next steps might be.
Will they also offer maybe some guidance on how to extend the life of our
Yeah.
pool?
Will they be looking at the wellness center too?
No, this is just for the outdoor aquatic facility, current Veterans Memorial Aquatic Center.
How are they gonna engage the community?
There'll be public meetings, surveys, similar to the things we've done with, city strategic plan with our park master plan that we're just working on right now. So those are the main ways right now, special events.
I've seen them like the ridiculous days. You had the parks, individuals were out there that were doing that survey.
They'll be at the pool trying to survey the people that are there, like put the picture of the things that you like we did with kids. Do that kind of thing.
Now, does it make sense to look only at the outdoor facility, like, as opposed to both at the same now that they're?
So
part of the
our
bigger-
scope of the current facility just entailed indoor or outdoor aquatic center. Part of the information will be what are people looking for aquatics too. So that means indoor. So is there enough indoor lap lanes? Is there enough time that pool is available? We know that we're at the point where it's pretty cramped on Simpson School, youth swim team, everybody wanting to use it, plus membership. So it will be part of that overall community needs.
Okay,
Necessarily the operations or the mechanics.
that was more my question, is taking a step back and looking at how those interact as a whole for the community.
So it'll be part of the survey.
Any other questions?
Councilmember Dolan?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Richards?
Aye.
Jones? Great.
Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to council reports. I need a first and second motion to receive and file the December 2023 EMS billing activity report.
Moved.
All right, any discussions?
Chief, would you, talk a little bit for a moment, if you could, about, some of the calls for service? We had that discussion Friday, I think it was. Is there anything we can do to kind of slow some of that down to some of our nursing homes?
That's an issue in itself. I mean, we're a community that has large senior living facilities.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we get calls to some of them that do not warrant or do not meet 111 qualifications.
We become a transport agency.
Yeah. 911 service is not a transport. Big difference.
You see those particularly to those certain nursing homes, is it a lot overnight?
It's more of the shift change than it is at night. And unfortunately, what we have seen in the past is that when we get a call, we'll go there and do a patient assessment. And there are times when the patients refuse because they don't want to go. Or the symptoms have been multiple days that they've been experiencing, anywhere from 2 days to 8 days.
I know, wasn't Aaron Hurd gonna be working with dispatch to try to train them on questions to ask, to try to alleviate some of those?
I'm hoping that will, yeah, because it's, and that's EMDs, what you're talking about, emergency medical dispatching.
So has that training not happened yet?
No, it has happened.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. And they are live with it, but it's still new to all of those communicators.
The training that we can do facilities to.
We've already met with all of them at once, but actually more than once, I should say. We actually go on, when we, I should say, Captain Payette is in the process of scheduling another round to meet with all of the managers of the facilities here in town.
Thing you have to remember is that legislation changed a while back that prevented the inspections to go on in the facilities as well. And with that came lack of training and other things. So not only are they understaffed, but they're untrained sometimes. And so that's where you'll probably have an uptick in calls. I personally, I won't say a whole lot about it, but I want to thank our fire department because had they not responded when I called for my grandmother 2 months ago, she would not be here. So that for me is.
Yeah, we're not gonna respond.
Right.
But once we do an assessment, well, then there's a decision that needs to be made.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of key too, that, you know, you're being dispatched when there could be other options and availability. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
since you're
there's
dispatched,
several private transport
Right.
services at Metro.
but, you know, once you're dispatched, you're gonna go through the protocols to make
Right.
sure, yeah, absolutely. Percentage, what do you think we're running? And I'm sorry I put you on the spot for that. If you don't have it, you can get it out.
I don't, but
Yeah, that's fine. Just a rough idea. Get a chance. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the
no,
spot.
no, that's fine.
Any other questions for Chief Chia?
A percentage of what?
The number of calls that we get that are, facilities that really end up being transport calls mainly.
And what we have on the website is, and we've always had it there, we have 2 documents. And one of them states this is the qualifications or the requirements that meet a 911 call. The other one is, this does not meet a 911 call. It's an educational piece.
Right. And it ends up, as you all know, then ends up costing our staff time and money and transport time and everything else. And maybe having an ambulance really is needed someplace else that.
Well, we're not transporting them if they don't medically need it, correct? If they don't meet the assessment guideline? Because at that point, I would say you would call a non-emergency managed or transport.
It's,
Or do they?
it gets pretty sticky then in different areas where if the patient says, no, they don't want to go, even though they're under the care, we cannot force a patient to go.
Once they're on site, I think you're probably pretty well, generally have.
Unfortunately, that's where it usually, so.
All right. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You appreciate it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Moving on, we have council committee reports from Steve Armstrong with Catch Des Moines, Steve Richardson, a legislative update, and what was your other one, Steve? I apologize.
Serpto.
And SERP test. If you guys want to give us a brief
You can go
1 to
first.
2 minute update on
Yep.
what you've gotten done with your committees.
Yes, I attended the Greater Des Moines committee meeting a couple weeks ago. So just wanted to report on some information that they had. Their Q2 hotel motel tax was up, which is good news. Their expenses were on budget. The caucuses were over and they ran smooth, brought in about a $4.2 million impact is what they were projecting on that. They do have NCAA tournament bids that are due on Wednesday. So I know that's not Indianola related, but it is Metro. And if you like college basketball, they are partnering with Drake on that, and they are doing bids for 27 and 28 for men's and women, hoping that they can land one year and the other the next. And then just in terms of like group business travel, tourism, and leisure travel, it's all remaining really stable and healthy now. So they're kind of seeing, you know, the rebound from COVID on that. So hopefully we'll get more of that down here. So all I've got. Oh, I guess before, sorry. I did bring the visitors guide that we got. If anybody wants to take a look at it, we're here a couple times. They call out kind of like town squares and stuff like that. So there's some balloon stuff, some Simpson, Pete's Pizza. They were a hot topic at the meeting, and just had somebody from New York did like a review on TikTok and like Instagram. I don't know. I'm like Ron, man. I don't know some of those, but they just got featured by one of those people. So if you want to take a look, feel free.
Thank you. Steve?
Serpto, we met via Zoom January 18th a while ago, but it was after our last meeting. So a couple of things here. Mid-American Energy did a presentation on expertise in construction of EV infrastructure. There's a name here, Katie Lord, katie.lord@midamerican.com. If we want to apply for a grant from them, grant dollars apply to routine maintenance, ongoing cost estimates for EV charging stations. And I did share this information with our sustainability committee as well. Adam Streeter is the one to contact on electrical issues. So I'm sure Charlie knows Adam pretty well. And a lot of it was also discussion about Ames and Des Moines MPOs were changing a little bit of their guidelines, taking in a little more of the county for Des Moines, and for Ames taking in a little more territory, which then takes away some of the county areas that Serpto would also qualify for. Wasn't a big issue and it's not a big deal, but that was one of the things we talked about. And then lastly, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure and Charging Fueling Infrastructure Grant, NEVI it's called. That is Iowa specific funding. You can get some of that as well. There are report on NEVI and CFI grant programs through SERPA with some of the charging stations, if that's something that city or community members would like to do. So it was a long agenda, but most of it was on audits and calendar work, boundary adjustments, and those kinds of things. Legislative Policy Committee for the Iowa League of Cities had a phone call this morning. Right now, tomorrow at 12:30, there is a subcommittee on House Study Bill 633. Our Representative Bowden sits on that subcommittee. They will be discussing whether city elections should be partisan. I think most of us, obviously, I don't know where all you stand, but I just can keep partisan politics out of city government, but that's my own personal opinion. A couple of other things. House or Senate Study Bill 3017 is public notification. It's back on the docket again. I think the Iowa Newspaper Association is not in favor of this bill, but it would apply. Public notices could be only online if the counties, right now as it's written, as if the city doesn't have a newspaper. I don't know how you define newspaper, whether it could be online or in paper, actual paper form. They're talking about adding some amendments to that, but that's Senate Study Bill 3017. Let's see, Study Bill 3016 is on mobile phone use, hands-free language, but they also then include in that section, and I think the chief's okay with this, but bans on automated camera systems that would be for traffic lights, speed, those kinds of things. So that's where that is on that particular issue. There's about 40 cities that currently have those kinds of systems in place. And then Senate Study Bill 3131 is another one that's up this, and again, funnel week is next week. So that means all bills have to come out of a committee, out of one body or the other to be eligible where they started. So if you start a House bill, it has to go through a House committee to be eligible for debate. Senate Study Bill 3131 is on the autonomy and funding of library boards. Deals with Chapter 8AA 2.2. Kind of a long discussion in the meeting this morning. Some of the library boards are fairly autonomous. One of the questions was on HR issues from one city that were having some trouble. But I would suggest that, you know, if you're interested in that, you take a look at that legislation to see what it would do. Keep an eye on it as a study bill, but it would have to come out of committee by next week, and then it would be assigned an actual number once it comes out.
Senate bill, Senate study bill.
Senate Study Bill 3131. Tomorrow's a biggie though. If you want to contact our legislators and talk to people about it, that's probably a good idea. That's House Study Bill 633.
Anything else? Moving on to item C, I need a first and second motion on a consideration of a reappointment. Misty Darling, Planning and Zoning Commission for a partial term from February 1st, 2024 through July 1st, 2024, and a full term from July 1st, 2024 through July 1st, 2029. Thank you. Any questions? I know that Misty has sat on this and has been a great advocate for our planning and zoning. Very thankful for her time she's given us so far.
He always has a lot of great commentary.
She does. Appreciate it. All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Stones. Aye. Ray.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Great. Passes 6-0. Welcome aboard again, Misty. And item D is I need a first and second motion on the consideration of a reappointment of Al Ferris to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a partial term of February 1st through 2024 through July 1st, 2024, and a full term from July 1st, 2024 through July 1st, 2029.
So moved.
Second. Again, another great individual who's given a lot of time. Any questions on it? Grateful for all of his knowledge as well too. All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Stones. Ray.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. I need a first and second motion on the consideration of an appointment of Rich Piper to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Great applicant to get.
Josh, he was on with you before, right?
Briefly, when I first came on,
So
a
he's,
long time ago.
he's been
His knowledge and experience will really be valuable on there. All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Stones.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
All right, welcome aboard, Rich. Moving on to item 7 under the mayor's report. Just a couple of items. I don't know which one, Melissa and Steve, which one is doing the morning IDM meetings?
I am.
The merchants. This Wednesday, they will not have the regular one as Ben and Charlie and myself will be meeting with them more about some strategic things and things they need. So you don't need to worry about that this week.
I thought that was Tuesday.
It's Wednesday. Maybe their regular meetings are on Tuesday, so I apologize, but there's no meeting this week. I don't want you to get up early and have to go.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And reviewing, and I haven't reviewed today to see if anything was removed, but the Warren County Supervisors do have a resolution on their agenda tomorrow morning in regards to dispatch. I will attend that meeting. And that is about all I have. So we'll head into the Chris Street proclamation. It is always an honor to be able to highlight and to celebrate Chris Street. His birthday was last week, and I'll just go ahead and read this to acknowledge it officially on the record. Whereas Chris Street was born February 2nd, 1972, and graduated from Indianola High School. And whereas Chris Street was a multi-sport athlete throughout high school, his athletic ability was undeniable. He was the quarterback of the Indians football team and an all-conference baseball player, but his real passion was for the game of basketball. And whereas Chris earned a starting position on the basketball team early on in high school, gaining the attention of Tom Davis, head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes. Chris helped lead the team to the state tournament and was named first team All-State his junior and senior year. And whereas Chris would go on to attend the University of Iowa and play for the Hawkeyes, where he played under the direction of Tom Davis. Chris's number 40 was retired by the University of Iowa's men's basketball team. To this day, he holds the record for the most consecutive free throws made at Iowa. And whereas on January 19th, 1993, the entire state of Iowa mourned the tragic loss of Chris after losing his life in an automobile accident. Now, therefore, I, Stephanie Erickson, Mayor of City of Indianola, do hereby proclaim on what would have been his 52nd birthday, Friday, February 2nd, 2004, as Chris Street Day in the City of Indianola, and I urge all of our citizens to celebrate Indianola's basketball legend. In the words of Tom Davis, Chris represented all that was good about the Midwest and the state of Iowa. He was open, caring, honest, loving, and lived life to the fullest every day. We want to remember everything Chris represented. He was one of the greatest Hawkeyes of all time. And witness, whereas I unto set my hand and seal this the 5th day of February, 2024. All right, we'll move into public consideration. Item A, under old business, I need a first and second.
Mayor.
I skipped one, I'm sorry. I apologize. I got so excited that we were getting to the next part. So item B, I need a first and second motion on the approval of the appointment of Franklin Ewers to the Veterans Memorial Building Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2026. I did talk to Afton about this, and she's very excited about Franklin's application, so she's looking forward to hopefully having him on board. Questions? Becky?
Councilmember Stones?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Now we can move on to public consideration under old business. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of the cost for the Franklin Avenue Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project.
Second.
Right, Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Stones?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Wanna leave this, Ben? Yours? AP?
Mayor and Council, Akhilesh Pal, Public Works Director. This is a sanitary sewer improvement project on Franklin between 9th Street and approximately 300 feet west of 9th Street. The most exciting thing is that we have opened the bids and received 12 bids, and the lowest bid is from Vanderpool for a cost of approximately $300,000, $303,030. Which is roughly $78,000 below the engineer's estimate. If council approves this, the construction is planned to start on June 3rd, which is when the school will be in summer session. And it's got completion, the substantial completion is September 6th, and the final completion is scheduled to be September 27th.
A section of at all?
I'm sorry?
Will this close down any part of?
Yes.
Yes, and that was the intersection of 9th and Franklin will be closed, and that was intentional, is why we had this schedule done during summer session.
I apologize. It was in there. I just missed that attachment.
Refresh my memory, right there at that intersection though, is that a fairly large, is that a box culvert or what is under there?
So it's a sanitary sewer.
Sanitary, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yes, so there's the whole intersection, the whole piping, the sanitary sewer pipe has failed. We have to excavate and replace it. As a part of this replacement, we're also doing the pavement surface, AD upgrades and some stormwater improvements.
Is that manhole cover up the street to the west, is that also failing, or is that where you going that far west? Not all the way to 8th Street, but it's that manhole cover about 2/3 of the way up the street.
I'm sorry, there's,
Okay.
there's a couple of manhole covers that's being,
Right.
and I can
It's
look.
up the
into
hill,
that.
yeah, it's up the hill. Yeah, just email me, let me know. I can tell the folks on the street.
It looks like it goes halfway
Yeah, if you
through
look
that
at the
street.
map.
Yeah, it does. I thought it did, yeah. I love the fact that bids came in lower though. That's great. Hopefully it,
It's a local.
and hopefully it bodes well for our future projects as well.
Great. Questions?
I have a question. How long will residents not be able to access their driveway?
So this is, it won't be phased. This is approximately from June 3rd to September 6th, whatever, June, July, August, approximately 3 months.
The entire time they will? not be able
Yes,
to?
yes. This is unfortunately, this is the least amount of time we'll take this work. So
Approximately how many residences are affected?
I'm sorry, I don't have the
Four.
count. Yeah,
Five residents, well, you'll have 4. The 5th one and 6th one should be able to get, those will be the furthest west on Franklin. They should be able to access I'm gonna guess they should be able to access their driveways.
on 9th, yes.
On Franklin, you've got 2 on Franklin. Are they gonna be able, you've got 2 driveways that are on the far west end of that area that you're excavating.
Yeah,
Those should be accessible.
map
Someone
should have that, yeah.
The detail isn't that deep in there, but if you just want to get that back to us and
Sure.
kind of on it, and they'll work really diligently with all of those homeowners and give them the heads up.
Yes.
And I think they'll definitely appreciate the repairs while it's inconvenient for the summer. They'll be very appreciative.
There's 4 affected by that.
Okay, anybody from the public have any comments that they would like to speak right now regarding the Franklin Avenue sanitary sewer? Right, seeing none, can I get first and second motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Ray?
Aye.
Selby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Franklin Avenue sanitary sewer project.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Ray?
Aye.
Selby?
Aye.
Armstrong? Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Jones?
Motion passes 6-0. I need a first and second motion on a resolution awarding a contract to Vanderpool Construction for the Franklin Avenue sanitary sewer project.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Ray?
Aye.
Selby?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Please, 6-0. Moving on to item number 2, which is 2103 East Second Avenue. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding a request for approval of proposed rezoning from the Highway Commercial C2 zoning district to the General Industry M2 zoning district and associated amendment to the Elevate Indianola Comprehensive Plan for land located at 2103 East Second Avenue.
So moved.
And Jackie?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Ray?
Aye.
And Dolly?
Aye.
We are now in the public hearing. Is there staff?
Yeah, I'll get it started here. So Eric Cannon on behalf of iTown Investment Group is requesting a future land use map amendment and a rezoning at 2103 East Second Avenue. The request is to amend the future land use map to partially guide for industrial uses on the property, as well as partially rezone the property to the M2 General Industrial Zoning District. So you can see on the left here is our future land use map that currently shows community mixed use plan for this property. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that the property is currently zoned C2 commercial. Looking here then, it'll show you the areas that are being proposed to be rezoned in the future land use map. So if we look at again on the left, or excuse me, the right-hand side showing the zoning map, the front approximately one half, it's a little bit more than that, would remain commercial. And then that back half would be proposed to be rezoned to M2 general industrial. On the map here, or excuse me, on the screen here, they show a conceptual map of what they're planning on doing. So this concept here shows a cul-de-sac coming in off of Highway 92, and including a total of 9 lots. The 4 lots that are on the right-hand side of the screen would be the lots that are inside the M2 zoned area. And then the 5 lots that are on the left-hand side there would stay commercial. Uses for the site currently are speculative. However, the applicant has indicated that outdoor storage and storage units as potentially uses for the future industrial zoned lots.
Charlie, I'm sorry, real quick.
Yep.
What side, the left side you said? When you were talking about which would be the storage units?
No, that's the right side would be the M2 zoned areas.
Okay,
So the 4 lots that are kind of around the cul-de-sac there, those would be the M2 areas.
Okay, thank you.
So looking at consistency with the comprehensive plan, again, it currently guides for community mixed use. The applicant is requesting the map amendment to guide for industrial, excuse me. The comprehensive plan does guide for an additional 22 acres of industrial land uses to support future economic growth and potential for large industrial development. And then again, looking at the comprehensive plan, you look at compatibility guidelines and does encourage avoiding creating new areas of incompatibility between adjoining land uses. Looking at consistency with the zoning code, this item will be reviewed in detail if and when the subdivision or the site plan application is received for the portion requested for the M2 zoning if approved. Looking at spot zoning, that's always something that comes up in situations like this. Things that you look at when you're considering if this is a spot zoning request is the characteristics of the surrounding property, the community's comprehensive plan, the protection and preservation, of public health, justice, morals, order, safety and security, and welfare as a police power. So when we're looking at this is really where that future land use map amendment is coming into play, and they're asking for that to be changed to industrial. That really takes care of the spot zoning aspect of it, because if that comprehensive plan is changed to the industrial land use, we're guiding for that industrial land use, and thus the rezoning would be consistent. So 2 actions that the council needs to consider tonight. First is on the future land use amendment. And the planning and zoning considered this on the future land use amendment. The planning and zoning commission did recommend that the request be approved as submitted. And then secondly, on the actual rezoning itself, the city of Indianola Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that the request be approved with conditions. And those conditions are that a buffer, according to chapter 16508, be required between the proposed area for rezoning and the dedicated park land to the east. Showing this a little bit more detail, going back to that concept that they have. The yellow areas are where a buffer is required by code today. That's between the commercial and in the industrial areas. We don't require a buffer between the park ground and the industrial ground. So that green area is what we're asking for. To show that if this rezoning is approved, that we do require a buffer between the park ground and the industrial ground. And again, the Indianola Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that the rezoning be approved with that condition to include that buffer. So with that, if there are any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Can you go back 1 slide for me?
All of a buffer.
So our code requires a berm, a 3-foot berm, be located on that, and then landscaping as well going alongside that. I know the applicant's engineer can probably speak to exactly how high of a berm they're proposing on that. But as far as the landscaping goes, it really depends. You've got 2 buffer widths that you have. You've got a 30-foot buffer width that you can choose from, or a 60-foot. If you do a 60-foot, less landscaping is required. If you do a 30-foot, more landscaping is required.
Charlie, when we zone this M2, what kind of facilities can go into that zoning in the future?
Really any general industrial use. So really what the applicant's looking at here is, and they can speak on this probably a little bit better than I can, but I'll at least get it started. There is a landscaping business that they own that they want to locate here. Because there is outdoor storage associated with the landscaping business, it requires an M2 designation because again, our code states that if you have outdoor storage, you need to be in an M2 zoned area. There are a few exceptions to outdoor storage, like limited hardware storage, for example. You have your Ace Hardware, you have your Circle B's that have outdoor storage. Those types of uses are allowed in the C2 area, but it's when you're getting into more large scale outdoor storage, like in a landscaping business, mulch piles, things like that for more heavy uses. Outdoor storage of heavy machinery, equipment, things like that.
So in the future, any of those lots could be sold off to like a steel stamping machine factory, things like that?
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, I think from our standpoint is also pay attention to the sheer lot sizes that you're looking at. They're smaller industrial lots, so there's not a lot of large industrial uses that could go in here. So just the sheer size of them is going to limit the type of industrial that goes in there. But that's not to say that maybe a smaller company that does that stuff that just needs a small lot couldn't go.
Only one of these is really gonna be buffed up to a baseball field, it looks like. The other one is the other side of it's gonna just be that open field back there. Where it's Plainview, correct? Yeah.
But I'll let the applicant kind of speak on the individual uses. I know they've got some plans for it and I don't know everything, so.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, Eric Cannon, 2727 Southwest Thunder Boulevard, here on behalf of Thunder Associates. Do also have representatives from the ownership here as well, if you guys do have specific questions. Appreciate the introduction here from Charlie. I think just a couple things I wanted to add to that. And I don't know, Charlie, do you have this? You could maybe share on the screen.
And you guys have that exhibit in your packets. I know that, but I'll get it up on the screen here.
Yeah, it's the one with the aerial. We kind of have the grades and the landscaping on there, because I know there was a lot of discussions about buffering and what this would look like and where it's situated.
Ours looks a little bit different, but ours is under rezoning map.
Yeah.
Under the 2103.
There's a landscaping and buffer concept map.
One we should look at.
Yeah, it just says
Yeah, landscaping and buffer concept is the one you're looking at. Let me get it pulled up here too.
So I guess a couple things I wanted to add here. So one thing, just from a clarification standpoint, we are not looking at mini storage or any type of storage facility like that. Really, the storage that's being discussed here with G&G, the landscape business, we're gonna have mulch piles, we're gonna have dirt piles, skid loaders could be operating out there. Talking with staff, it was clear that we needed to have that industrial zoning for that type of use. So really it was trying to find a home for the business here. And so really a lot of considerations were taken into that. The site here itself, the property does have a lot of fall off it for you guys that are familiar with it. There is about 30 to 40 feet of fall from the highway down. So really the thought was, let's tuck this back. And so with the aerial, what that helps kind of tell the story is we do have the fields to the east, but really where the industrial lots are kind of in that more natural area just to the south of the fields. Adjacent to that, we also have a really nice stand tree line there that we wanted to keep, preserve, protect. So what we did is we placed the 3-foot berm just to the west of that tree line. We do not plan on touching that tree line. That is the best buffer that we are gonna have. And that carries all the way through the commercial lots as well. We are establishing the berm and buffer on the northern portion of these lots to separate the commercial ground. And then we're also doing the berm and buffer on the west side, even though we don't have to do that at this time. We felt, let's get it all in, let's encompass this entire area. And then we do have the existing tree line to the south here, that big ravine through there. It's a big stand of timber through there that obviously we don't plan on touching at all. These folks also own the property to the west. So when you talk about being a neighbor, taking consideration of the people around you, all of those things were taken into consideration when talking about this property. Really, the goal here was to find a home for not just G&G, but your local electricians, your plumbers, those folks that have a cube van, they need a little bit of storage space, they need a place to have some overhead doors, got a little bit of equipment they're gonna need to store. There's just not a lot of good homes for those. Yes, from the zoning standpoint, you could put a sand quarry in here. There's other things you could do, a cement batch plant. These lots are just not big enough to support any of those type of users. Really, it's that smaller contractor that we're looking to find a home for here. So to Charlie's point, naturally, a lot of that is gonna get eliminated just because the sheer size of the lots. You're dealing with an 1.5 to 3 acre lot. You're just not gonna be able to put any, those type of facilities aren't gonna go here. They're gonna go out in the industrial park, kind of here in the northeast side of town where you do have a lot of larger real estate available. So a lot of discussions on this. I know you guys saw this, referred it back to P and Z. You had some concerns and questions. We wanted to be sensitive to that, respond to that. Hope that we have. And happy to answer any questions you guys have.
We know what future plans are for the property on the west.
We have done some concepts on that. I think there is a mix of some commercial, potentially residential, some multifamily, something along those lines. Obviously, you've got the frontage on the highway. It's a state highway. It's a major arterial roadway. That's part of this area as well. You've got a lot of vehicles going through here on a daily basis. So I think there's some value on the frontage, which is why the commercial frontage has stayed here on this piece. I think there will be some opportunity there to the west, but at this time, it's still very speculative.
And for me, my biggest concern is the traffic, and it's already a very congested area. And when you're talking about bringing in more commercial use vehicles and equipment and stuff like that, that's all gonna slow down traffic through there, and it's already so backed up.
Oh, that's great. It slows it down. I'm just. I mean, I think it's highway corridor, so you're gonna get where you get there, but.
Seeing potentially industrial use in between our middle school, our high school, and our biggest park, right? I think that's the concern, and I think then what precedents are you sending right now for what gets zoned around it? We've worked to an industrial park on the north side of town. We've planned for more on the west side of town, close to arterials that take you out to Des Moines. Working on North Sixth Street right now to remove industrial from the middle of residential and potential park areas and all that. I mean, that still is just the overwhelming concern is this mix with high school and middle school and park traffic.
I've thought about this a lot. I mean, I woke up at 2:30 this morning and I didn't go back to sleep till 5, but I know, right? I think maybe some of us might be getting hung up on the word industrial. I mean, when we're talking about housing a landscaper, housing a HVAC company, I think it's a little different than bringing in like a Ford truck factory. That's just something that I've been considering and you can answer this for me. How long ago was our industrial complex placed over there on the east side? Was that in the 80s that all that was built?
What do you mean, where?
Like Herschel's,
The current industrial
the
park.
current industrial
That
park.
was,
It would have been, I think, the 80s.
Before
that was started, Central Paving built their building there when, they sold the lot, which is where kind of Ivy parking on the south edge of the parking area now is along Franklin. That was, I worked for them in summer of 74, 75. They would have been there about 2 years, so probably 72. They were the first ones, and then Vanderpool followed them, and it went on north from there, and that was paved at that point in time. And Hillcrest was then paved out to 15th at that time as well. Iowa was paved out to 15.
It just seems like, that complex has been out there for 40 plus years and we've been landlocked for 40 plus years. I don't know that we're gonna free up a lot of ground around what we currently have for some time. So, I understand some of your guys' concerns about not wanting to place commercial or industrial in a spot outside of our industrial park, but I mean, we've been landlocked for so darn long.
Well, I kind of agree with Josh. I don't kind of agree. I do agree with him on, we just developed that industrial park out north. My concern is going back to what you asked historically. Look at the 6th Street sub area plan that we have approved a couple of years ago. And that whole process to do that, 50 years ago, that was the north edge of town. That was the edge of town. I don't want us to make the same mistake here. I think that by putting industrial in this position at this point in time, 25 years to 30 years from now, somebody's gonna go, what idiots did that? I just think that it's not designed for that. I don't think that's what the plan has been all along. I think it's, I don't agree with it at all, and I think it's something that the industrial needs to be on the northwest side of town, and that's where it is right now. And if we develop additional industrial area, then it should be probably in that area, north.
You bring up, sorry, Steve, to jump over the end of your there. I think you bring up a good point, Ron, that like we have been somewhat landlocked historically, but now we're remedying some of that. And even the discussion on 17th earlier only adds to that, that we're making the moves, and that industrial park is not quite full. The new addition to do that in the way that is.
Those lots split out yet available for, because I know that, you know, that has been asked multiple times and specifically by a certain landscaper that maybe is in this development, but we haven't gotten anywhere on it. And so if they can't get anywhere on the lots out there, I mean.
We're still landlocked basically, right?
Exactly, because they can't get anywhere on them, and I don't know if they've been divided up, and again.
Have you guys
The commercial and the-
anywhere else other than right there?
Let's let folks finish their comments here before we jump in.
Well, okay, so in response to that, yes, do we
To
have?
speak on that, so there's currently 3 lots out there. There's a couple 10-acre lots, one of which Sternquist is gonna be locating on. They split off about I want to say it's about a 5-acre parcel for Kayakota. And then really what remains, there's another 10-acre lot that I think I don't know if they have it under contract yet, but they were pretty close last time I knew. What remains is about a 30-acre parcel. Last I knew, the property owner was hoping to sell all 30 at once to a larger industrial user. But I've also heard the comment a few times that that's only gonna last so long, and if that doesn't sell, they're going to start splitting that one off into smaller pieces.
So
and
3 to
selling that
4, 3-acre lots aren't available currently in industrial then?
Not in the new industrial park that we just
When would the
developed.
plan be if this could go through? When would you guys expected to be?
We've submitted a preliminary plat on it, so I mean, they are, you know, committed to this ground, they own the property. They're looking to move forward, with this immediately pending zoning, so, and I guess to your concerns and your point, I get the confusion associated with industrial. I'd love to call it a commerce park. To me, that is something that's probably softer. I know that word is scary to a lot of folks, industrial, and what that represents and what that can bring. Something we've talked with staff and the owners are committed to doing is, if the concern is this industrial tag being put out here, I mean, I'm not saying create a new zoning district and call it a commerce park, but conditional zoning is something they're more than willing to do. If you want to eliminate a lot of these uses that you guys are so worried about going in there, totally on board with doing that, because really what they're looking to do here, it's already zoned commercial. So there's a ton of uses that can go here from a commercial use that I'm sure a lot of people are scarier than a landscape company and generate a lot more traffic. So we're not trying to take an area that is going to be a park and turn it into an industrial park. It's already commercial. We've got a use that staff is telling us has outdoor mulch piles. And so therefore we've got to have an industrial zoning. And that's, we're not asking to put a batch plant here. You know, this isn't going to be Sternquist's, you know, new office and new plant and scale house and all that stuff. We're talking about a landscape company and some you know, contractors that want to have a home in Indianola and just can't find it, to be honest with you.
I love your comment, Eric, about Commerce Park. That doesn't scare me. It sounds like a nice thing, but it's also not exactly this. Unfortunately, we have this, or we have C2, we don't have that. And my bigger concern is just, it has nothing to do with the business. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I know you're trying to find a spot. It is not that at all. It's
4 years.
I mean, I guess the question.
Let him finish.
If you don't mind.
Absolutely, but I feel like we're walking in circles here on this. I think opinions.
I'm trying to put a bow on it here real quick.
Perfect.
I'm not looking at the business per se. My concern is that you put industrial zoning as it's currently written. We have to work within this area. And what does that lead to in the future potentially to open up? Because now it's no longer spot zoning. We're changing the comp plan. We're changing all these things. And it's this today, and what is it tomorrow? And to Steve's point earlier, what is it 5 years from now? For me, I don't think that belongs in between your park the high school and the middle school on this stretch of town. Where I don't think that, so.
Be
That could
open to
done now.
conditions.
I think it's still, I don't know that that's the right answer. I just don't think I'm open to that here. I think I was on P and Z when this got rezoned commercial years ago, vividly. You know, I don't think that I personally don't know there's any discussion on conditions for industrial at this point, for me, that I'm one of 6.
I guess, Charlie, I know there's another business here in town on the other side of town, specifically off of 92 as well too, and they store behind their business these exact same products. They in fact had $1 million worth of permeable pavers stored behind their business, and they have other landscaping items behind their business. And looking at it, and I don't want to call them out, they're a great business. They're also a commercial, and so if we want to be consistent, then I guess what I'm saying here is it's kind of, I see it as the same business. It's a very nice building up front and you don't see the stuff in the back. But if there's conditions, I think we have to be very upfront so we don't continue to hold you guys up. So
why do we go ahead and because we have one business in town to maybe do that, and I don't know if they've been grandfathered in or if that was something that was decided a long time ago, and make the same mistake here? I'm with Josh, I'm not in favor.
are you favorable to conditions? I'm asking because Eric asked.
So I was gonna say, is there a better way to go about this then?
Really?
Is there a better way to go about this?
One thing we might do, Mayor, is get the public hearing done and get other people.
You haven't heard the public's comments yet.
Sure,
And you're having
sure.
your discussion to make a decision.
Sure. If there's anybody in the room who would like to speak now, specifically the best time to come forward. You'd like to talk about 2103 East Second Avenue. See none. Can we continue our discussion in the public hearing? Can I get a first and second motion to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie.
Member Armstrong,
Aye.
Peach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Stones.
Aye.
Wade,
Aye.
Dolly.
Aye.
Well, the next item on my agenda is to amend the plan. So now we're out of the public hearing. So what would you like me to do to get this conversation?
Get a motion and then have discussion.
A motion for approving an amendment to the Elevate Indianola plan. Okay, first and second on the resolution approving an amendment to the Elevate Indianola comprehensive plan for property located at 2103 East Second Avenue.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Okay. Discussion. So now we can have more discussion about this. Anybody else? I absolutely respect everyone's opinions on.
You know,
No, 'cause you guys
just
are in the public.
looking at that with the whole 160 acres. There was a house placed, on the corner of 92 and 14th. I think that was built in 2000. And that, assisted living facility was also around 2000. So there hasn't been hardly any growth in that entire area for almost 2.5 decades. Just a point I wanted to bring up. It's something I've been thinking about.
Anybody else? Will the house be torn down, I assume?
Yes. Would this be when I go, is there a better way to go about this then again?
So
Charlie, I got him. Sorry.
no, you're good. And
Bring this back to that.
the conditional rezoning is one path forward that can really nail down specific types of industrial uses you do not want located on this property. So that's one avenue forward. Another avenue forward, and this is part of a discussion on another item that's on your agenda because the Planning and Zoning Commission did ask you to look at it, is to consider amendments to the code that would allow for something like this to take place. So currently the code, again, when outdoor storage in the C2 is very limited to certain types of businesses, more retail type businesses, which are not being located here. And if the council wants to consider a code amendment that might allow more outdoor storage in these types of areas in the C2 zoning, that's something you can do. But As far as path forward on that, those are really the only two things I see. And sometimes the thoughts on it, but
If we were to say what kind of businesses we want or not want.
Uses, probably uses.
Or uses, sorry.
Yep.
And this land would sell. Then the next owner, would that transfer?
yes,
with
yep,
ownership?
it would go with the land, yes.
Last council meeting, we voted 6-0 not to allow changes in C2 zone for outdoor storage, so. And now we're, you know, I don't know where you all are on this, but
We'd be kind of backtracking.
exactly.
Isn't that to rezone the whole city though?
Yes, but that's what you're
That's
doing.
what we're doing
Next
over
amendment.
here.
I just thought this was specific.
The conditions would be specific to this property. So option 1 is the conditions. That would be specific to this property. Option 2, which is to amend the code, would be the entire, yeah, it would affect the entire city.
Speak. Sure, absolutely.
Is it?
Developer has a couple comments.
Yes, Lee Adams, 17567 120th Avenue, Indianola. I hear you're gonna put industrial on the north between here and Des Moines. That's the city's plan.
West, it's already industrial.
That's where every town grows. Industrial in every town is on the south side. Go to Norwalk. The egg factory's on the south side. I think what we want to do is so close to commercial that that's what's frustrating. I gave Charlie a list of things we're willing to waive. We're not gonna have junkyards. We planning on developing the 18 acres. It's gonna be residential. Maybe hopefully a little commercial in front. I don't think you want a townhome on Highway 92, which it is a US highway.
Not arguing.
I know you're not, Steve, but my son-in-law, 3 people that are in this project are Indianola graduates, their wives, all their kids go to school here. They employ people and they're in a place for them to go. We've been looking for 4 years. So something is wrong here, guys. There is not a place in the industrial park. Britt had a place because he's moving, but it's already sold. And I think what we want to do is so close to commercial. And you hit it right on the head. You hear that industrial, Ed, Industrial Creek. It's it's a shop for landscaping business. And then we were gonna put some things like Vanderpool had, so the plumber has a place to go. He can store his pipe in there and do his paperwork. Des Moines is full of these little commerce parks. We're not gonna have anybody working here if we don't have a place for them to work. And I turned it over to Charlie today. I marked off 25 things that we're willing to waive, junkyards, all that stuff. Nobody wants that there. It's a landscaping shop. And they employ already about 12 people. Cody, the other owner of this, I'm just a junior partner, had some young guys want to get something going. They had no place to put their shops. Cody's in a little spot up on the square. He's got a plumbing business also. But he qualifies, we think, the commercial part of it. There's a hill back there. You're not even gonna see this thing. And traffic on the highway. Okay. But you don't put industrial on the north side of a growing town in a Des Moines suburb. If that's your plan, that's just my opinion, but we had 277 acres north of town. If you guys want to do that industrial, I'd probably sell it, but probably get industrial going all day long. Spot for it, but it's just, I think we're so close to what's already zoned there that I think if everybody just calmed down and it's landscaping, there is gonna be some mulch. But you can build concrete things around there like the guy out there used to do before he left, but there's ways to cover it, but I don't even think you're gonna see the building back there. Just, my 2 cents worth. But there is no place for these type of businesses to come to our community. None. Zero. You find me one, I'll buy her. There's not any. So just consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Charlie, have you been out to the site specifically to look at the elevations and that?
Yeah.
So this wouldn't be seen from the road?
I mean,
and buffers?
it's hard to say just from looking
Doug's
at it
kinda
from the
giving
road
me
right there.
some-
It does dip down pretty far into
Yeah,
the
Doug's
ditch.
giving me he's the Pickard excerpt back there.
It does drop off pretty good. In fact, I know we had some initial discussions on this, if sanitary sewer service was even gonna be able to reach that back portion, so because of the drop.
Comments?
I would just say that I would more prefer looking at, Charlie can correct my words here, but like the spot zoning or only doing things that are specific for this site rather than complete rezoning.
The conditional rezoning.
Yeah, that's what I would prefer.
I would be more open to looking at that than what's currently proposed. Don't know how.
So what would happen if we did the C2 look at it, right, and you open up that more, just for discussion, to all the C2 corridors in town, right? That's the hard part. We're limited by code to a certain extent, because I'm with you. There's ways to, but also we're a little stuck. And so if we make a change to C2 here, it's the same as we just discussed at the self-storage on the C2 on the north side of town. It's not just for that site, it's for the whole town.
Same developer, so he can't put his businesses on the north side either. And
I guess I'm talking as far as the landscaping business goes, not the outside storage, like, we've already kind
Yeah.
of made a standing on that aspect of it. And so,
I think the landscape business
Unfortunately, I
can go
don't-
there without, as it's zoned currently,
Right.
but they can't do outdoor storage, correct? That's the component, Charlie?
Yes.
how would that be any different than, and I'm just asking in pure ignorance, like Ace, they do have in the backside the outdoor storage. So is that possible where they can build things around it to hide it, buffers?
No. So ACE is different since it's a commercial store. So commercial is allowed in the commercial district, and there are aspects of the commercial district that do allow outdoor storage. Smaller scale landscaping bags that individuals can buy in 5-pound bags or whatever like that are allowed. This is more of an industrial type user that's going in there that is bulk storing landscaping for projects that they're doing.
What if he sold mulch out of there?
If it was bulk sell, it would still be in the industrial classification. It's the bulk storage that's really kicking in here.
So it's the bulk
Plus,
storage
they
being
also-
sold outside.
And
or
they
stored.
also have the heavy equipment that's being stored outside as well too, so.
so is the heavy equipment their company's equipment, or is it rental spaces?
Well,
for
and
other
I
companies?
guess I don't know exactly what it is, but I know when we
Sure.
had talked, dump trucks, excavation, stuff like that.
Personal equipment?
We don't rent any equipment.
What I think might be best is if table this, work with staff to come up with a better proposal. I think that's more specific, that everybody can have a little more consideration on. There's a lot of things going on here. I guess just trying to find an opportunity to, I think, give you guys a little more concise ask. And to your point, Josh, I think this is very site specific. I mean, there's a lot of consideration for what's going on to the south, the amount of elevation off of Highway 92, the fact we're on a state highway. I get, we don't want to say every C2 should have this opportunity in the entire city. That's not what we're asking.
Sure.
That's not the conversation we want to have. We want to say this specific piece of ground with this type of use in this location, 500 feet off the highway, 40 feet down the hill. That's the ask we're making for these users. And I think we want to come back with that.
And there is a way to specify that. So, cause I think
I guess
before when we
really
were
quick.
talking outside storage, we were talking more actual storage, like where anyone can store on that lot.
Yeah, I think outdoor storage is basically, that's just my equipment.
Okay,
It's not
so
like,
so it's
nobody's
not-
bringing their campers here, nobody's bringing their boats here, it's literally my
your
equipment.
equipment, your mulch, your things
Yeah,
like
which
that.
comes and
It is
goes.
specific business, but it does also allow if, you know, the other lot wanted to be used that. So to your point, Doug, I guess I want to verify really quick. I believe state code does allow for conditional zoning. That you can adopt specific conditions with the rezoning that would say, you know, the M2 allows all of this stuff, but we only want A, B, C, and D to be allowed within the M2 district.
As long as the applicant agrees.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So in the future then, if they choose to sell the property, could the new buyer of that property come back and want to change the M2 back to a more heavier industrial usage?
And you're asking to allow for more uses?
Yeah.
Sorry, so it would have to go through a rezoning process again, because they'd have to get those conditions amended out of the ordinance that passed it.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, definitely not. I mean, yeah, another owner could definitely ask for those restrictions to be lifted.
But that's.
It'd have to go through the same
Anybody can do that
process.
on any
Yeah.
property.
It's like we've talked about it with PUDs in recent meetings, at any point, they can come back and amend those PUDs if they want to. It's the same exact thing here.
City would have complete control over that.
Understandable, yeah. It's still one of those things where my concern is that with park on one side, school on the other, that if even the M2 classification, and I'm not willing to change C2 to do all those kinds of things because we just voted that out last time, so. I still have some issues with it. I'm also concerned about the traffic. I don't know how many people you're gonna have coming in and out of this. There's a lot of 15, 16-year-old drivers on that road every morning. And my concern is turning traffic and trucks and semis or trucks with trailers or vans or whatever it may be. I have a concern about that. It's a little different than a car turning into a subdivision or into a commercial property. So I do have some concerns about that as well, to be real frank about it. And I'll always err on the side of kids when it comes down to those kinds of things, if that's what you're. I just think, and to Lee's point about industrial on the north side, we already have industrial on the northwest side. It's been there for 50 years and we're expanding it in that area. And I just think that's probably the best place for these things, so. My opinion.
Anybody else have any other, and then back to what we're gonna do. Any other points on that? So we have two options here. We can.
You got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I know, but I need to give clarification how we're doing this, if we're going to move forward with asking them to come back. So I understand we have a motion on the floor, but before I have us vote on that, I'd like to talk about our options. We could table it for the request of Mr. Cannon. Or we go ahead and vote on this as it is. So starting with Melissa, would you like to table it and have them come back with more specific and conditional?
Well, we can't have it, yeah.
I would rather take.
So
You table it. So that's what I'm at.
Motion on the floor, so we either withdraw the motion.
Well, but what I'm trying to see is, do we withdraw it or were we just gonna vote on the motion that's currently on here? There may be a possibility the majority wants to.
Don't poll everyone. It's a general discussion.
So what do we wanna pull it? Who gave the motion? I didn't pay attention. I apologize. What a little bit of a mess we have right here. I'm still not trying to figure.
The original motion.
I'm still trying to figure out if we're gonna come back to this original motion, so I'm still lost there. So you made the original. Would you like to pull your motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull my motion.
Who made the second?
I did.
Would you like to? Okay, so now we have pulled that and for the request, I have a first and second motion to table the discussion regarding this property. And that.
What to
I
do
would say-
when you table it?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out before we
We have to
tabled it.
table each agenda item specifically, correct?
Yep.
So we have to go back and make a motion to table.
From starting at B.
Yep.
Okay, so I need a first and second motion to table resolution approving an amendment to the Elevate Indianola Comprehensive Plan for property located at 2103 East Second Avenue. And first and second. Thank you.
Second.
Jackie.
Councilmember Rabe,
Aye.
Delby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
No,
Stones?
Right, moving on to item 6 or C, I apologize. I need a first and second motion to table the first consideration of an ordinance approving rezoning from the highway commercial C2 zoning district to general industrial M2 zoning district and an associated amendment to the Elevate Indianola Comprehensive Plan for a portion of the land located at 2103 East Second Avenue. Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, really quick with that, I just want to be crystal clear from staff standpoint, is the intention of the council, send this back to staff and come up with some conditions on the rezoning.
That's what I was
That would limit-
trying
okay.
to get
Yeah,
out.
I wanted to make sure that was the council's direction. I know the applicant talked about it, but I just needed the council's direction.
Now that you've motioned to table, you can discuss that.
Okay, so,
Sorry, I started the discussion.
Well, now I'm like, now we're on,
Totally
we
good
still need to vote on C. So the motion has been tabled, and so what we're gonna ask is for you to work with the developer and to come back with the information we discussed tonight. Okay, Jackie, would you like to do roll call?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Hold,
Wait,
Yeah.
did you have something to say?
No, I'm curious what we're voting on now. Are we
Motion
just?
to table.
well, we motioned to table B, and then he wanted clarification of what,
And now we're back to C.
yeah, now we're on C. I know.
No, I'm just.
We're on C right.
We are on C. So we are voting to table C. Okay, Jackie.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Nay.
Stones? Reed? Dalby?
Aye.
Okay, so we have tabled that successfully with a 5-0 vote, 5-1, I'm sorry. Moving on now, item 3, discussion regarding the spring and fall cleanup programs. I did
So-
not see information. Oh, there it is. I didn't see.
We had the
this.
contract on the table last meeting with regard to waste management. And the council had us go back and look at the possibility of generating revenue through an increase to the recycling fee. That is a legal use, and we do appreciate the rapid turnaround that Bricks Gentry did for us on that, prepare for that. So we wanted to make sure that we had both parts. Charlie and AP really led out on those discussions and working with them, so.
Nothing attached to it. Doesn't it? Well, AP.
Frank Council, this is Akhilesh Pal, Public Works Director. Following up on the previous study session that we had, these are the same numbers that I presented during the last study session where the scope of the work by the contractor is to facilitate for 2 annual cleanup events. One is the spring and fall cleanup. The spring one is curbside pickup, and the fall cleanup is where we facilitate at the brush facility, and they will be providing the dumpsters for that, 40-yard dumpsters. So the rates that's shown here is basically what they have quoted, and on the next table. Thank you. On the next table, I wanted to show what we previously paid and what the proposed rates are, almost doubled. The biggest price increase is for the cost of the spring cleanup that was roughly at, it started at 39,500 to on 2028, it ended up $48,000. It's a significant increase. So we looked at during the last session, you requested us to look at what the average cost is and how many containers we used for the last few years, and we came up with an average of roughly about 15 containers during the spring, about 12 containers in the fall, and then the amount of tonnage is on average of roughly about 156 tons of waste that's been generated by these events. Go to the next table. We looked at the cost increase based on IMUs, the total number of households. There's about 6,118 customers at IMU. We came up with a monthly costing rate of 75 cents per household. And this is only for 2024 based on the current number of customers that IMU has. And did you have to add it?
Yeah, no, I think AP did a good job of that. we're looking at that 75 cent increase per month to cover the entire cost of this program. We've gone through the legal avenues with legal counsel to make sure that this is a legal use of the recycling fee, and it indeed is. Yeah, I'll have to add.
This including the 20,000 that we budgeted for, or is this, so
So
the 20,000 plus the 75 cent a month increase?
The 75 cent per month increase would cover the entire cost, so including the 20,000 that we budgeted for.
But we would no longer be needing that 20,000.
That's kind of the thought process from our standpoint, was it does free up some general fund as well to use in other areas, so.
I'm happy to pay
So how-
$7 a month to have that curb cleanup, so.
75 cents, I was just doing the numbers. I mean, it seems that we would actually be a net positive of about 16,000. Maybe my numbers are way off. That's why I married a accountant,
I
so.
think it came out to like $856, something like that per household a year.
Oh, no, I was just figuring out how much overall. So if it's 6,118 times 75, that's 1 month, right? 4,500 times 12 months. And you got 55,062 cents. So that seems that maybe we're,
That you've got to look at the total cost on this sheet right here, so that total cost, that
Sorry.
includes everything, so waste management's contract is one aspect of the total cost of this program. So we're covering the total cost of the program over there, which is that 54,833.
okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was short one. Apologize. Will this do anything on a billing side from IMU, or have we had that conversation? Like how, I guess we probably have changed these times again, so it's probably just something pretty simple.
Yeah, and the other thing I think to add on that, so I know annually we adjust the recycling fee every single year. Way we first did this, we were gonna look at one flat fee over a 5-year period that could cover it. But since we do amend the recycling fee from the actual curbside recycling portion of it annually, it makes sense to reset this annually, because the total amount of customers, hopefully as we continue to grow as a community, that number goes up, and then maybe that fee can overall decrease because it's being spread out over more customers.
Can you repeat that? I was focusing on something.
Yeah.
On some math here.
Yep, so we're essentially, this fee would be reviewed annually at the beginning of the year, because we do have increase in recycling fees that come in, and then we'll evaluate based off our contractual prices right here. Because right now, the total customers are that 6,100 roughly. I mean, next year it could be 6,200, and
Yeah.
it continues to go up. So we want to make sure we're using accurate, up-to-date numbers and calculating that increase.
Thought I missed something important, and I wanted to make sure I captured it, so thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think 75 cents is bad. If we use that 20,000 and then just build them for the remainder, you'd be looking at about $5.70 versus $9. So it's not a huge. You can go to Casey's and buy a can of Monster for way more than that difference is, so. I don't know, I don't drink it.
I drink it,
just-
so that's-
okay.
You get the better deal.
Yeah.
Right. The consensus, this is okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
All right.
And there are 2 action items following this to.
Item 4, I need a first and second motion on a first consideration of an ordinance 6 collection of solid waste.
So moved.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson,
Aye.
Stones. Ray,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
All right, item 5, I need a first and second motion on a resolution authorizing a contract with Waste Management to provide services for the spring and fall cleanup programs and yard waste disposal at the brush facility.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Stones. Ray, Dalby.
Aye.
Moving on to new business, discussion and direction regarding a pre-levy resolution.
Current council, with the change to House File 718 and the elimination of non-November ballot initiatives. One of the ramifications of that is that when and if the council moves forward with public safety buildings, libraries, and all that type of thing, the timing is such that your levies won't fall in place with the same same time as approvals for a bond and being able to put things on the levy to take care of the debt service, which in effect makes it so that you are now approving something. The voters might approve something, or the council might approve some sort of a bond, depending upon the bond type. And with that, it would take a whole year before it hits the next levy and hits the next levy cycle and all that. So we were contacted by Michael Maloney with regard to his knowledge of our project for the public safety building moving forward, and had several discussions with Jackie on that. And basically, we just wanted to get this is an action for you this evening, but we wanted to get it on your horizon and maybe have a little bit of discussion and direction from the council on this. But basically, state rep law requires levies to be set during the formal budget process. Iowa cities may include geodebt yet to be issued in the long-term debt sheet, Form 703 of the state budget form, if the issuance of such debt has already been authorized. Authority would need to be completed by April 14th. And then a little bit later in his email, he says, as long as the city completes the hearing process timely, the pre-levy authority can be included in the city's budget. The city then can proceed with the actual debt issuance at a later date. So this is one of those things where it's setting the city up that if in fact you decided to pull the trigger on debt with whatever form that you decide to move forward with, that you would already be pre-authorizing and allowing for the debt to actually be issued, or the ability to collect money to pay that debt has already been taken care of as a prerequisite, and that issue is out of the way, so that when you get down the road, you don't have to wait that whole year and delay the project. So, and we just wanted to bring that up to you with any questions you might have. The next procedural step would be for us to go through the analysis on what that would be, and set a public, bring that back to you for your consider to set a public hearing, and then have the public hearing, and then have that council authorize and check mark that prerequisite. When we get to that point, we would have Michael Maloney here to better answer questions and that the council may have. But any questions, thoughts, concerns about the timing issue that we now run into?
I'll just be frank, that was a lot of Greek. I'm not gonna lie. Said, if you're gonna argue something, make sure you know what you're arguing here. I don't know what I'm arguing, honestly. So you're saying, are we given authority to, if we do go through the bond process, that we've already given authorization to pay back that debt?
Authorization to initiate a levy for which you can collect money to then pay that debt. So that procedural step of putting it on the levy, it's not actually on the levy, it's just that prerequisite step to allow you to put it on the levy, should you so choose to pull the debt trigger in the future. Because you have to do that by April, and yet some of those steps may not take place until later in the year.
Let me see if I can clarify that a little bit too, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. So if we would go to a bond issue in July or in June or in November, we wouldn't, because that would be the bond issue and the actual approval of the levy, we wouldn't be able to do anything technically or collect any money until that July or even to the next
Have
budget
to
year.
put it on the next levy in April, which wouldn't be able to start collecting.
So you'd be
until
almost 18 months out.
A year later.
So even though we'd have a bond issue to move forward, we wouldn't be able to collect and put together a project because we'd be 18 months out. So what this is doing is speeding up that process. Allowing us, if we pass a levy in November, allowing us then to start immediately on issuing that levy. Is that right? Issuing that levy and collecting money on it and then making sure we start the project.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense.
But we haven't
So we would be approving it this budget hearing in April.
Correct. It would be part of this budget process to at least take that procedural step and check. But there are intricacies around it, and so we definitely want to have Mike Maloney here to answer those questions better than myself.
So bring it in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So our first step would be to set the public hearing, and we would likely provide you some information about how that process works, and then he would like to be here the night of the public. So, you're aware of that. That way he can talk to the public as well.
That is driving me nuts. Oh my God. I can't hear anything. I can't even hear the Greek with the pen. Okay, so did you get the direction you need?
I sure did.
Perfect.
Got you out of your trance anyway, didn't?
That's all I heard was that. So, okay, moving on. I need a motion, a first and second motion on a resolution referring a zoning code amendment request regarding outdoor storage in the C2 Highway Commercial Zoning District to Planning and Zoning Commission.
I would just respectfully suggest we make a motion. I don't know what we have to do here, Doug, but to reject this. We've already rejected it once. I don't see why we want to do it again.
You would, either get a first and second, or you get a first and it dies for lack of a second, or go to a vote.
I would make a motion, we reject it.
Wait, this is the same address directive that we were just discussing before.
Yes. Actually, you can't make that motion. It's motion gotta be to approve, and then you go to a vote.
Reject it then.
Defeat it out of.
So yes, if you were not in favor, you vote no.
Yes.
Makes a second,
Huh?
or no one makes a second
Or
to your
no one makes a
motion.
second.
and it-
This is what we're we tabled, basically.
No, this is what we voted down before, is that correct?
This is just referring it to planning and zoning.
And it would then set it up where they would change the entire city and C2 zoning and allow outside storage.
But why is it back on, I guess then why is it back on here as a?
It's just the
There's
mechanism.
a second, I'll give some background.
Really.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so yes, we need a second to continue the conversation. Do we even have a first? Okay, so first and second motion on a resolution referring a zoning code amendment
Or you don't have to have a second.
request for outdoor storage in the C2 Highway Commercial Zoning District to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So either I need a first and second, otherwise no more conversation. Okay, seeing no first or second motion, we will move on. There we go. Item 3, I need a first and second motion on a resolution authorizing a professional service agreement with Sportsman Solutions for naming rights and sponsorship consultancy and management of Pickard Park Sports Complex.
But so moved.
Okay.
All right. Doug.
Mayor and council, thanks again, Doug Byland, Parks and Recreation Director. One of the things that you can see here, as Pickard Park becomes more popular, more of a regional destination, and increased youth tournaments and adult softball, and obviously disc golf course we have there. But what we're looking at, we've been trying to create revenue by having sponsorship and advertising of the park. And this will hopefully expand on that, which would hopefully bring us more revenue into the park, put back into it. I want to stress a few things. We will still adhere to our policies that we have on our Parks and Rec Commission. It doesn't allow alcohol, tobacco, just political things, controlled substances, those kind of things are still going to have that authority from our commission and council level to make sure that we're not putting up things that shouldn't go up there. Commission did go through this back in December and tabled it back and went back to the company and had a few things that they were worried about, especially that minimum amount of money that we already currently create or generate, 10,200. We want to make sure we get that. So on top of their commission that they would get, we would get at least 10,200. They're foreseeing way more than that. So I'll stress that Norwalk uses this as some of their complexes. West Des Moines uses it, Holiday Park, and Bettendorf uses it. I think it's TDK, their gigantic sports complex they have there too. So we just look at this as an opportunity to expand on the sponsorship opportunities of the complex. Maybe someday even grow it into other things in the city too.
Question? Great. Thank you, Doug. Any other discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Stones? Dave?
Aye.
Dolby?
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Moving on to other business, city managers report, Ben Reeves, and discussion regarding the fiscal year 25 budget.
Okay,
I need to run to the bathroom, so.
Yeah, can we take maybe just about 3 minute break here?
go for it.
Perfect. We'll take a 3-minute break. We, back online, we are with city managers Ben Reeves and, would be conscious of everybody's time in here, especially our staff who've been here for a very long day as we move into this very important part.
I will make it as quick as.
Well, not for you.
so-
I was saying for us. We need to listen a lot right now.
Okay.
Included.
First of all, a big thank you to our elected leaders and our staff members who've been involved in budget retreats over the last 2 weeks. And a lot of prep has gone in to those meetings that we had. And so it's a perfectly imperfect process in that what historically you would have been given budget. Here you're getting yourselves more involved. And so each year as we go forward, we are trying to make it better and better. And so recognizing that when we start opening up the hood, then you start having more and more questions, and that we're still on a timeline. So each year it will get better with that said. Towards that end, one of the things I committed to do was to get you the ranking results that you had from your last council retreat. And in that, the council members as well as the staff members went through and voted and ranked and prioritized 3 separate items. One was projects, one was equipment and vehicles, and the other was personnel. And I put together a great spreadsheet that blew up today, right at the end of the day, right after I created this printout. So glad we have printouts tonight, and I have a PDF version of it. But it's but I have to recreate the spreadsheet portion of it that kind of died on me. So with that said, the chart that you're looking at right here on the screen shows the priority of our projects as they're ranked by both the council and by the staff. And what you're looking at is the combined ranking. So what I did is I took the council's votes and the staff's votes. And at first it was looking like it was more heavily weighted toward the staff. And then I clicked in my head that, of course, there's 14 staff members there and 7 elected leaders. And so from this morning to this afternoon, I redid the formulas a little bit so that there was a council average and a staff average, and those two came together so that there is true balance in that. And with that, what you have before you is the ranking of the projects in the order that is combined. I do want to point out a few intricacies. I also have provided charts so that you can see just your rankings and just the staff rankings. And then you can determine if you want to consolidate just yours, just theirs, however you want us to proceed. But there is some intricacies in this in that even with handing out the sheets in advance or during the meetings, and even with putting the stickers up, we still ran into a situation where multiple stickers went on one and not on another. So there was deficiency. And this was both by the elected leaders and by the staff. And I'll show that to you in this chart here. Oops. What's going on?
Ship on the council side.
There were a couple of stickers where I got a little
confused.
Yeah, and there was no going back then. I wouldn't be able to retrace my steps.
Well, it was the first time. And I know that there was some, I haven't historically given the sheets out during the meeting. But when you do go up there and you start putting 25 or 35 different stickers on there, it sometimes gets hard for you to remember, did I already vote for that one or not? And that's why I did the sheets. I purposely didn't give the sheets out in advance of the meeting because there is a certain organic discussion that goes on as you are doing it within the meeting, talking to other people, putting stickers on. And if you come in preset with your mind, then it's sometimes, it is a actual byproduct of the doing it at the same time that's beneficial. So that was with intent, and I'm not sure why this is not opening. But basically, I'll describe what I did. So let's say the 7 elected leaders had 8 stickers. What I did was I added the total points for your 8. Then I took the average of all of you and subtracted that out so that there was only 7 numbers. Or let's say there were 6 votes and you didn't have one. I took and added the points for the 6. Then I did an average of those 6 and added the points back in. So if there's any discrepancies, that was my way of compensating you to make sure that every one of yours had 7 votes and every one of the staffs had 14 and not 16, and you have something that's askew. So with that said, I will go back to this chart right here. This is the combined ranking, and I don't expect you to look at them all tonight or talk about them this evening. This is what you can take with you and and look, and I'm happy to provide the PDF version in electronic form should you so choose. The next page of that PDF is that same table and ranking based on, you can see the combined ranking here. But you can also see where your rank was versus the staff. So all three of you, both groups and the combined group indicated that the new public safety building should be the highest ranked item. Then I show just how the council ranked it with your table alone, just how the staff ranked it with their table alone. And I then have that for all three groups, the equipment, the projects and the personnel. So all of that's before you. You have it in these nice little charts. I happen to have one extra right here for Amy. Planning ahead. And that is that for now. And I'd love to have you take a look at it and give me your feedback throughout the week.
Thank you, Ben. This is really informative. So thank you for your time. Just a real quick question on the CDBG facade program. That's the one, Charlie, that we were not awarded, correct? So,
But we are putting in within 2 months, so it still might come this.
okay, so, yes, you didn't say that earlier. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, couple other policy decision directions. It's not for you to approve this evening, but what the next step would be is for us to take all of the anticipated revenues and expenditures based on the high level guidance you've given us thus far. And then to come back to you with what fits in the budget and what doesn't fit into the budget. So some of those things for which we are moving forward with, unless the council directs me otherwise, is a couple of items that we've already talked about. We've tax levy total, we had talked about not changing the 1355, but it may change some interior buckets. Are you okay with us at least getting it to that point so you can see where the line comes with that? Okay. Vehicle debt, that was the other part of it, is where the buckets would go. We would like to put a schedule together to show what that would look like, what interest rates would be, what equipment would fall into under it, and just give you a high level analysis of different options, whether it's a 3, 4, or 5 year, and how that would fall together. Okay. Pre-debt levy, we already talked about that. And with that, sometimes when I first understood pre-debt levy, it was different from what I read right before this meeting and shared with you this evening. Oftentimes you will have costs that are associated with the project that come in prior to a bond being approved. And so there might be a separate resolution at some point authorizing you to reimburse yourselves for previously expended funds for things like architectural fees or whatever that would come out of the project eventually, but you're floating right now. So keep that in mind. Hotel tax is another one. If you recall, when Andy was presenting this last year, he had received recommendations from our auditor, Robert, indicating that there needed to be a tie to economic development for each of those funded elements of the budget. And historically, we have opened it up and received applications. And what Andy was trying to do last year is to steer us down a different direction. And we haven't opened anything up, but really to look at the pillars of our community, the things that bring in the most traffic, such as balloons, such as opera, such as, fair, whatever it might be, and look at those and then do some proportionality and set that as kind of a heart, rather than having it open and we just receive applications in, set that as a more allocated portion of the money that you have to allocate out, make it a more formal tied process. Are you okay with us going down that? You can still tweak it at a later date. But the reason I have to ask that is because if we are to open up a window and receive applications, we really need to get moving on that. And the issue is we'll be setting ourselves up to be required to say no to people we have funded in the past because they don't have an economic development ROI.
When we open it up, can we give that specification?
We have historically, but we still get the application day. So then we tell them no, and it's kind of a exercise that just hurts feelings.
Aaron, will we do
Yes, we'll probably have to communicate that out. Absolutely. And then the last thing is the parking lot discussions. Several of the parking lot items, I sent that out to the council. Thank you very much for requesting that information. Are there any of those parking lot items, and I'll bring on the board. Oops, the email shut down. Right now, are there any of those that you want to talk about right away as we continue in the budget process? And sorry, I have this up. Oh, wrong one. Well, it's good enough for what we were talking about. We've already talked about a lot of these things, but is there any of these that you wanted to bring back? Sorry, I should have the typed version up.
For specifically just the budgeting, correct?
What's that? For budgeting purposes, all of these will come back at some point for policy related.
I guess I would say, you know, the possible sale of the cement mixer, I think that could be a really big key when understanding how we wanna go forward with some of the priority aspects, right? You know, I know we talked about, could that purchase some equipment? Could that then slide different things?
It could, it just depends on the residual value of those assets and how to disperse of those.
Yeah. I just wanna keep that top of mind when we.
That's something we do. I agree with Steve on that. I know I've talked to you, Ben, about, and I think that was at the RUTF analysis, is that what, where we take? we
Road
actually-
use tax funds.
Yeah, we actually look at what items come off of road use tax, if there's any there. And also sewer money and,
Okay, so one of the things about sewer as well, we had a little bit of discussion about sewer and lost funds. I don't know that I was exactly clear. I want to be abundantly clear. I'm not looking. Well, first of all, you're the ones who set policy. I don't set policy, but I wasn't looking to try to dramatically increase rates or anything like that. But if we are currently at the higher end of the Ames schedule, just perpetuating that going forward as other cities are putting in projects very similar to ours on the high end of the capacity and the treatment. All the cities are going to have to upgrade their facilities at some point to take care of the nutrient levels and all the different issues that we already have taken care of with our state-of-the-art facility. So as those other cities come up, we just stay in line with those cities and slowly have the possibility of you as a council evaluating the opportunity of determining how you want to use those funds, whether that is just going straight to operational or if it would go towards minimizing the lost funds that make that a subsidized, general fund subsidized utility. So that wouldn't probably have a huge effect this year, but just wanted to have that in the horizon. And of course, I'm not asking for any determinations.
I would say on this parking lot, like any of the things like Armstrong brought up, with the RUTF, like anything that potentially affects the budget as far as how funds are received and what we do with them. I mean, that's the important stuff. Trouble still with this is it's great, but I don't know, you know.
What you don't know is how much revenue you have and what fits above the line. And
that's
the
key in all of it, right? That I think we just, even looking at this, I enjoyed the exercise of the night, but I'll probably do it differently. Once I have a number, my rankings would almost change. Just from what you can get done in a year and what you can't. Anything we can bring forward on that stuff then later is.
Sure. Part of that, knowing the number actually goes back to, are you going to try to maintain, increase or lower taxes? So that's the harder part that you'll tweak later on as we show you, if you maintain, this is what you can afford.
Yep, we need to know.
Okay, that's all I really had, and it was a very hard week for last week for everybody, and I apologize for the aspects of that made it challenging for you, but I do appreciate all of your support. So thank you.
No apologies necessary. And one of the things I did forget to share in my report is in speaking to the IMU trustees, they are agreeable to do a utility service billing audit report. Ben had brought that up, that would probably be best. So they'll bring that to their full board for approval and then we will do that audit. And I think that will be good for everybody. So, and they were supportive of us. Seeing no other, first and second motion to adjourn.
I moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Gotta get it done by law.
Yep.